conferencia en vivo por YouTube. No puede hacer comentarios públicos y se tiene que conectar vía WebEx. Si necesita más información en cómo hacer eso, puede ir a nuestro sitio de web, poc.lacounty.gov. Si prefiere hacer sus comentarios en español, les daremos 4 minutos y podemos proveer traducción al inglés, o usted puede proveer su propio traductor. Nomás avísenos al principio de su comentario. I'm now going to call the roll. Commissioners, please respond when I call your name. Commissioner Canales will be joining us at approximately 11 a.m. Commissioner Brooke Harris. Commissioner Jackson is not in attendance. Commissioner Kakani. Commissioner Meredith. Commissioner Prater. Commissioner Shipp is excused and in Sacramento today, receiving a gubernatorial appointment for which we congratulate him. Commissioner Terry is excused. Chair Eduardo Mundo. Chair Mundo, we have quorum, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Before we get started, the department has asked to table item number 6 on crisis intervention teams until next month, and the leadership team agrees we should do that. Commissioners, is there any objection to tabling item number 6?
You may need to turn on your mics.
I think they were just.
Are they on?
Is it okay to ask why we are holding it over until next month, given the number of concerns that young people are raising and staff are raising related to crisis intervention, especially inside LP?
I'll have Ms. Epps answer.
We have, wait a minute, can you hear me? We have 3 major things on the agenda, and some of the items were not completed for that. Even yesterday, I just got back Monday, so that is completely on me. So I picked the 3 most current with a request to continue that one.
Commissioners, any follow-up questions?
Just thinking for a second.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you. Let's proceed with item 2, the approval of the November 14th meeting minutes. Wendy, do we have any written public comments or live public comments?
We don't have no written public comments on the minutes. Anyone who in the room who'd like to make live public comments on the minutes or virtual comments on the minutes? I'm assuming none.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the November 14th meeting minutes?
I'm sorry, Chair Mundo, I just wanted to.
Can you talk right into the mic? Thanks, Brooke.
I abstained from approving the October minutes, and it says that it was an aye vote. I don't know how.
Thank you.
And I believe Commissioner Shipp did as well, since we were just appointed in November.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll correct that.
With that amendment, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Meredith. Okay. Commissioners, please vote with a voice vote. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item 3, which is to discuss and take possible action on an update on progress the Los Angeles County Probation Department has made towards reaching compliance with Title 15 and Title 24, according to the California Board of State and Community Corrections at Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall and Barry J. Nardoff Secure Youth Treatment Facility. Chief Deputy Epps, thanks for joining us, and please proceed with your update.
Thank you. On behalf of Chief Vera Rosa, who could not join us today, from his office, I do have the following statement. Dear county partners and community members, the chief would like to personally assure our county family, partners, stakeholders, and families of minors that the department will continue to operate Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall and use it for the confinement of youth as mandated by the courts. We respectfully disagree with the findings from BSCC and firmly believe that Los Padrinos is in compliance with state regulations. We have and will continue to provide a safe, secure, and rehabilitative environment for all youth in our care, while addressing the systemic issues that have persisted far too long. We appreciate your understanding as we work towards long-term improvements. Please be assured that we are dedicated to providing the highest level of care and support for the youth entrusted to us. Our committed team of professionals, including our staff, is tirelessly working to ensure their safety, and I would also like to say our partners as well, to ensure their safety and to offer the necessary guidance, resources, and services to help them through this challenging period. It is crucial that visitation, programming, and other essential services continue uninterrupted. At this time, we are evaluating all options. However, until such remedies have been exhausted, we will persist in delivering appropriate care to the youth in our facility. We are sustaining our essential operations and request that all our county partners do the same as we strive to resolve these issues with the state regulatory body. It is vital to note that without an alternative site or plan proposed by our governing agency, we are obligated to continue housing and providing care for the young individuals placed with us by the courts, and we will fulfill that responsibility. We are here to address any questions or concerns you may have. We value open communication with our partners and stakeholders, and we encourage you to reach out to us at any time. Thank you. Chief Guillermo Villaraigosa. Thank you.
Is that the report? Are we going to hear anything about the compliance effort for Title 15 and Title 24 today?
That is our statement on behalf of the department at this time. Other things, we would ask that the POC council reach out to our council to determine what can be discussed further.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have questions or comments? Commissioner Meredith?
I understand the circumstances of the memo, and obviously transparent communications is going to be important. The only question I would have is that, I know what the answer will be, or should be, is we're going to continue to strive to meet Title 15 and what BSCC is looking for, correct?
As stated, yes, sir.
Commissioner Kakani?
Would it be possible to be provided with a written copy of that statement? Just, it was hard to kind of track all of the things that were mentioned.
Yes, I'll send it.
Okay, great, thank you. I guess I don't know if this is something that you can answer, or if you'll say that this is something that needs to be handled between council. But you said that the probation department is exhausting every remedy. I believe I heard that. What does that mean? What remedies? What are we exhausting? If we could just have a little more, I don't know, detail.
I would like to give you more on behalf of our department, but again, I totally agree. The questions need to be between our council, because at this time we cannot do that.
Commissioners?
I'm sorry, I'm processing, but I can pass it to Commissioner Harris while I continue to process.
Good morning, Ms. Epps. It seems like you may not be able to answer questions today. I'm gathering from your prepared statement and the responses you've given to the question. So I'm going to move to a comment. That statement, given the events of the last week, feels outrageous to the public, to the young people in Los Padrinos, to their families, to this commission, to the taxpayers of Los Angeles County. The chief has resigned and unresigned, and then does not come to answer questions, defers to legal counsel, when we all knew this day was coming. And the day is here, and the probation department is not only not sharing what the plan is, but saying that they are, what I heard in the statement was that they're blaming the courts. They're believing that the BSCC is in error. You know, I'm sorry to say that there was a Los Angeles Times article published today where you said we're not moving. They're going to have to put our stuff on the curb. This is just this is appalling. I don't know how else to say it. This is appalling. This has gone on for years. There's been some, sneaking by inspections, watching the BSCC meeting. I believe it was in April of 2024 when the facility was found suitable. It was a very close vote, right? And we're talking, what blows my mind is we are talking about minimum standards. Minimum standards. And we have a body, a state body that is charged with inspecting facilities, and they're coming down and saying that 24%, I'm sorry, let me just refer to the document, but they're saying 24% of the shifts overall did not meet the department's required minimum unit staffing requirements. We had an exchange in November where I asked you about, safety, but we're talking about minimum standards. You're not meeting minimum standards of staffing. And then to say, to tell us all that there's a mistake and that the BSCC is wrong and that the probation department is doing everything it can while not telling us what it's doing it's, where does the buck stop? The buck stops with your department. It stops with the Board of Supervisors. The courts are going to be detaining kids in unlawful facilities, and you're not taking any responsibility. And it's not okay.
Morning. Is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague here. It is a bit disappointing. Just for a point of clarification, is there a reason why in the last few commission meetings, folks have asked for the chief's presence or question or comment to why the chief can't be here? Is there like a standing meeting that is in conflict with his schedule that prevents him from being here to talk? Is that just...
While I understand your question, that is a question that has to be directed to the chief.
Okay, Chief, if you're watching, would love to understand what the schedule conflict is that prevents you from being at this commission meeting. And I'm asking because you're right. This was an absurd and a bizarre week for the department, with him resigning and then recanting that resignation, and a very important deadline is upon us. And I don't know the gentleman, and I'm always going to try my best to assume positive intent, but it does feel a bit strange that given the events of this week that he isn't here. And I'm sorry that the probation staff that is here is having to sort of like be peppered with questions and you know what I mean, that quite frankly that you all shouldn't have to be in that position, when he's the head of the department, and so he should be here to answer tough questions. So I know I empathize with you, and it's not right. And I'd hope that at some point he'd step up and really take this seriously. This is a really important inflection point. Everyone from the Attorney General for the state is watching this particular event, and for him not to be here is just really extraordinary. I have another question though that I want to ask about just contingency planning. And I know that the closure or the, when BSCC found Los Padrinos unsuitable, and I guess the consequence of that is that the space be shut down, then what is the plan? What's plan B? And who has the onus is upon which body to draft what that plan, like who is responsible for the plan B? And I'm imagining, what if there were some natural disaster, an earthquake that we're all predicting, the big one, right? A fire, right? Anything that could happen that would cause that facility to be shut down, then we need to have a plan for where do we put and where do we place young people in our care. And so let's just take the BSCC sort of like, recommendation for closure off the table. What happens if a place needs to close? Where do we put folks? And I know that, the problem is apparent, right? But what I feel is lacking is a focus on the solution. What is the solution to, if we ever needed to sort of shut that place down or any other place down, what's the plan? Whether it is imposed on us by a governing body, by BSCC, or some act of nature, right, that caused us to have to shut a place down, where would 300 youth go? And I kind of feel like I'd like to understand who is responsible for that plan and where and when will contingency plans be made available. But I do feel like it is a bit outrageous that a statement is being sent, and then it sounds like the posture is we aren't even able to answer questions today and referring to council. That seems really, really just disappointing. And I'm sorry that you all are having to be the, standing in the line of fire for that. He should be answering for that. So I'll yield.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I can confirm that every probation department, every facility under Title 15 is required to maintain an evacuation plan. It is a section of Title 15 that we are in compliance with, and there is a plan to where youth would be evacuated in the event of a natural disaster or issue significant enough to require us in an emergency to evacuate the facility.
And so those places that you evacuate to, are they suitable places? You know what I mean? Like, and so I don't mean in the short term of like, hey, like let's evacuate it for a month. But if we had to close it down, like this, like the BSC is suggesting, right, until we can come up with a plan for staffing, which sounds like is a real challenge based upon our last meeting to meet that bar, right? Because of all the various reasons. But we need to have a plan for, it sounds like we keep coming back, this seems circular at this point, and how do we come up with a space and an alternative, right? If it isn't something like that, to kind of place our youth. And I just would like to take that part seriously, and understand more fully what real plans are, and especially what the plan is for this particular situation that PSC is saying it's not suitable, and to say that we're not going anywhere, that we're staying okay, but then you should be able to sort of like share a plan. And again, this isn't aimed at you. I'm just, by proxy, I'm talking to the chief.
Thank you. Commissioner Meredith.
Yeah, I just want to readdress the fact that communication is probably the biggest problem we have in the organization from top to bottom, including to the employees, including to the POC. And yeah, I agree. The chief should be here these meetings. And if there is a scheduling conflict, then we need to look at how we adjust our schedule and meet that. I've been doing this 22 years through 14 chiefs. And the lack of having leadership as a consistent stability has created a lot of our problems. I realize a lot of it is staffing not coming to work, and there's a remedy for that, but I'll leave that for another time. The biggest thing is that we need to have that transparent communication, at least to the board. I understand there was an executive session Tuesday, and as a result, there was a change in status. That's great, but we need to have a presence here that we can address so we can know what's going on, because this is a problem for all of us on the public safety side. I understand the judges decide who goes to the facilities, but we've got to figure out how we're going to handle these facilities if we can't meet the BSCC guidelines.
Commissioner Kakani.
Thank you. I think something you said just stuck with me, Deputy Chief Epps. I think it was something along the lines of the chief believing or disagreeing with the BSCC's decision, position, and that you all were not, in fact, breaking the law by continuing to operate Los Padrinos. And I want to read something from the BSCC's correspondence with you all during their re-inspection. So you called them back and you're like, hey, we've got it together. And they come back down, I think it was November, it seems 19th through December 2nd is the documentation that they were reviewing. And it says, we found of the 45 shifts reviewed, that includes AM shifts and early morning shifts, 24% of shifts overall did not meet the department's required minimum unit staffing requirements. We found Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday early morning shifts and Saturday, Sunday, and Monday AM shifts to be below the identified minimum staffing numbers. So I'm not sure how we disagree with that. There were 11 occurrences where youth identified as a level youth, meaning a young person who needed a 1-to-1 staffing ratio. There were 11 occurrences where youth identified as a level youth did not have a level staff assigned per the documentation provided. This highlights that minimum staffing numbers continue to not be met and/or are inadequate to meet the needs of the facility. So it just seems wild to me that you're going to put out a statement that says, we disagree with your determination, when in fact there's documentation proving their determination. It's also wild to me that every day young people appear in a court and don't get to say, we're going to ignore the law and we're just going to exhaust every remedy as we figure ourselves out. And what I hear you saying today is we're going to ignore the law while we exhaust every remedy to figure ourselves out. And I don't get why there are two different standards here. I don't get why the county and the probation department get to decide that we're just going to ignore the law, violate the law, essentially engage in conduct that qualifies as a misdemeanor, while young people don't get that chance. It's appalling, it's absurd, it's disgusting, it's horrific. And you know, I feel like meeting after meeting, we've had members of the probation union come here and say, it's the board's fault, we don't have enough people. That's not the case. There are more than enough people, and you simply have people who are calling out. And so it's unclear to me what the probation department and the county is doing to hold the union and those staff members accountable. And it's unclear to me why we perpetuate this narrative that young people are the most dangerous, young people are attacking staff, young people this, that, it's all their fault. When the adults responsible for caring for them can't show up, can't follow the law, and really can't do right in the most basic of ways. And I get that you can't respond to any of this, but like at least on behalf of the young people and the families and parents and people who love those folks who don't get a chance to show up here and say what they need to say, I hope that you like choose to show up differently, because this, I don't know, there just really aren't words to justify how complicit many county departments are today in breaking the law.
Thank you, Commissioner Kakani. Commissioner Brooks.
I want to follow up on something that Mr. Prater said and asking you, Ms. Epps, what's the plan for an emergency? And you assured us that there, there is a plan for a natural disaster, things like that. But this is an emergency that we knew was coming. We knew it was coming. This has been going on for years, but actively, this particular situation has been going on since August. There, in the BSCC's letter dated December 10th, there is a report that's reflected on page 1. It says the facility continues to be minimally staffed. The county provided us with an updated staffing plan on December 4th. Can you please make that staffing plan available to us?
I will inquire as to the availability of the staffing plan.
Commissioner Harris, can you, I can't hear myself, but maybe that's okay. Can you make that very, like a very clear request for my benefit so that I know exactly what we're asking?
Yes, there is a letter from the Board of State and Community Corrections dated December 10th, 2024, that informs Chief Vieira-Rosa that the Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall remains out of compliance with Section 1321 of Title 15 in the California Code of Regulations. This letter reflects an inspection that was conducted in response to Chief Vieira-Rosa's request for reinspection dated December 2nd, 2024. That letter references on page 1 an updated staffing plan that was provided by the county to the Board of State and Community Corrections on December 4th, 2024. This updated plan, similar to previous plans, does not provide background analysis of the staffing plan that takes into account how the minimum staffing numbers were determined. But there is an updated plan that the county provided to the BSCC on December 4th. I'm looking for that plan. In addition, sorry to say, there is on the very top of page 2, there's referenced, let me ask Ms. Epps before I make the request. The BSCC letter states that since the last inspection, the county has implemented a population reduction plan and has made strides in reducing the number of youth being placed in the facility. Is that updated in that the BSCC is calling that the latest staffing plan? Are we able to review that plan as well?
Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question
Sure.
about that? I think will help. Thank you for that very much. That's, I believe that the POC commissioners who conducted an emergency inspection of Los Padrinos, I want to say it was in January of 2024, received a copy of a staffing analysis, I believe is what it was called. That's why I'm not sure if it's the same thing. But if so, then there is some precedent for having received that in the past. So I can clarify that specifically with Deputy Chief Epps after the meeting. And then the second thing I'm hearing is about the detention reduction plan, which is, I believe, what the title has on it. The most recent copy that we received was in August of it's dated August of 2024. I believe we received it in September. And I think that the conversation at the POC meeting was that there had been changes to that plan since we received it. So I think I'm understanding you to ask for the most updated version of the detention reduction plan. Is that correct?
In addition to the staffing?
Yes.
There's two different plans.
Two things. Staffing reduction. I believe it's called detention reduction plan is the plan to reduce the population.
Yes.
I'm looking at Deputy Chief Epps.
The detention reduction plan is available.
Great.
I will send it. I was supposed to send the updated plan, but yes, we've shared it at the Justice Roundtable. It's been shared, so yes.
Second is the staffing analysis. Updated staffing plan.
That is reference that was provided to the BSCC on December 4th.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to give us a break and go to live comment or written comment. Wendy, do we have any?
Yes, there are a number of written public comments that are already attached to the agenda. And if you'd like to provide another written comment, please send it to info@poc.lacounty.gov. Those of you who would like to make public comment in the room on this BSCC item, please come to the front of the podium. If you'd like to make public comment online, use the little raise your hand function at the bottom of the WebEx screen. If you're on YouTube, you cannot make public comment on YouTube. You have to join the WebEx, which you can do by going to our website, poc.lacounty.gov, and clicking on meetings and then today's agenda, and you'll find the WebEx link there. I'm going to run the timer and let you know when your 2 minutes expires. We'll start with comments in the room, and you can begin, Raquel.
Good morning. Well, I'm loud enough. I'm Raquel Derfler with Cancel the Contract. I'm here this morning to uplift the story that broke in today's LA Time entitled, "In Leak Take, Probation Official Says LA County Could Defy Order to Close Juvenile Hall." The fates must have certainly aligned for me today because that official is here in the room, none other than our Chief Probation Officer, Kimberly Epps. The audio caught her stating, quote, "We are not moving. You're going to have to put our stuff on the curb." The recording also caught her telling a group of probation supervisors that they would not obey any order to vacate the facility. She was referring to Los Padrinos. Deputy Epps was at best being disingenuous when she answered your question about the department being willing to comply with orders from the state. as this article clearly shows, they feel that the state is in error, that they don't have to listen to the state. The probation is law enforcement. They are tasked with upholding the law, yet they feel they are above it. Actually, I have no empathy. This commissioner had empathy for you all because in listening, in that audio, she clearly is 100% aligned with Chief, as is all of probation. So actually, it's wonderful that you have to sit here and listen to the public. And so once again, there's no empathy for you. There should be empathy for these youths that are forced to endure these conditions when you are tasked with their rehabilitation, with helping them, and you obviously feel that you do not have to do that, that you can run your ship as you want. Thank you.
Good morning, Thomas.
Good morning. I had a lot of thoughts just listening to everybody's comments. And, personal note, I agree with the chief. Don't shut it down. That's just my opinion. We, tired of people telling us what to do with our department and everything. Keep it open. We'll get it right. How do we get it right? Well, I'll take what Ms. Brooks said, accountability. And once again, as I said before, we get a lot of fingers pointed at us. We get a lot of people, the staff, the officers, not staff, officers are calling out. Why? But no one addresses the why. Nobody cares about the why. If we focus on the why, then maybe we could stop some of these called offs. But that's not what's important. The important is someone to blame. I've been coming to these meetings since the prick meeting started. And when the prick meetings was happening, I asked them, what was the purpose of this commission? Is it going to be also to help officers? And they say yes. But have we received help from this commission? All we got is blame. Where's the accountability for you guys? And I'll say it again, like I said before, where's your accountability? We get told so much about what we're doing wrong. But yeah, you got a commission that's supposed to be making sure that things are going right. We inform you guys what's going on. I come here all the time and tell you what's happening, what we need, how to get the halls back, how much effort is put into making that happen. Or we just keep fingers pointing. You got commissioners that go to the board of supervisors meetings to tell them to close it down, but they're the ones that's supposed to be overseeing it and helping it build and get back up. You got commissioners who go to the BSCC meetings to tell them to close it down, but they're the ones in charge to try to get it back together. If I was the chief, I wouldn't come either. Why would I come here if just to hear everybody point the finger at you, but no one offering assistance, no one offering help?
That's your
I don't
time,
know.
Thomas. Thank you.
Okay, a little upset.
Welcome.
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ho Campos. I am a youth advocate with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Simply put, my comment is, so these facilities are still under non-compliance. How are you going to care for the youth when they're under non-compliance? That's the issue here that needs to be addressed, not these other things that were just stated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rochelle Amesqua. I'm the director of the Juvenile Justice Clinic at Loyola Law School. I have a question today for Ms. Epps, as I know you've been instructed not to answer, so I don't expect one. As you sit here today, Ms. Epps, what makes you believe that you and probation are above the law? As we all sit here today, the youth and former youth that are in Los Padrinos are sitting there right now. We talk about low staffing, but what does that actually mean? What does that actually mean? It means that youth are scared. They live in fear. They live knowing that they have no power against probation, and your actions today confirm that they are absolutely right. Your actions today communicate to every youth in Los Padrinos, every community member, every loved one with someone in Los Padrinos. They know that probation will not follow the law. They have no protection from a powerful agency that believes it is and does so operate outside of the law. Thank you for confirming today what our youth have always known. The longer nothing is done, the longer our youth are harmed, a harm and trauma that I have witnessed firsthand as a defense attorney from the youth that my office represents. It takes time and care and love to heal from that trauma from leaving Los Padrinos. Their blood, oftentimes literal blood that I have seen, is on your hands. And it is on the hands of all of us who do nothing in the face of a department who defies the law. Action must be taken, and I promise you it will be.
Welcome.
Good morning, Probation Oversight Commission. My name is Jacob Jackson. I'm with the Youth Justice Coalition. Today, I'm here to address the felon of Chief Vera Rosa of Probation. Chief Rosa has yet to appear before the Probation Oversight Commission, and under his watch, the scandals surrounding the juvenile halls have continued. These facilities neglect the youth in their care and violate their rights. Closing Los Padrinos without a plan does not address the systemic issue. As of Tuesday, October 22nd, 51% of LA County incarcerated youth population is held in unsuitable facilities. Young people are suffering and deserve support, not just containment. If we truly want to make an impact, we need to explore alternatives that treat them as a human being, not lab rats or test subjects. Invest in Department of Youth Development. Voices from inside Los Padrinos. One young person shared horror inside LP is fighting for things we should already have: clothes, food, and help with our cases. Another said horror to me is seeing a minor overdose. It's even worse knowing one of my close friends died of an overdose in Silmar Juvenile Hall. A third young person explained seeing youth restrained by staff or CO or watching peers sent to the county for things they didn't do. That's horror. Also, my brother Devontre, who was in the audience today, as well, explained his experience in LP and Silmar. Life in Los Padrinos and Silmar Juvenile Hall is not rehabilitative; it's dehumanizing. Lack of resources. There are no real programs or support system. The most help you might get is a brief session with the mental health counselor, often after a fight or when placed in isolation. Isolation as punishment. When sent to the Hope Center, isolation staff comes only to remind you of your wrongdoing. You stay there until they decide you're ready to return to the dorm. Restricted access, no bathroom access after 5:30 p.m. unless you're a porter, cleaner, or server. One phone call every 2 days if you're lucky. Food and basic needs. The food is terrible, with only reward being small treats from school success on Saturdays. Violence. Fights are broken up with care. Fights are not broken up with care. My apologies. Instead, staff yell OC warning for pepper spray. Within seconds, minors are sprayed. Conclusion: young people in these facilities are suffering, not thriving. We must do better. It's time to reimagine the system, offering programs, resources, and genuine care to help youth grow, help and better, and build better futures. Thank you.
Good morning. Lena Mallet with the Children's Defense Fund and Layup. I don't have much to say, and I think others on the commission and in the audience have already said all that's on my heart, but I'm speechless to show up to the only public community forum because this department and the board would rather hide behind closed session doors and present a written statement dishing blame to every single other entity than your own is disgusting. This is callous, it is sickening, it is audacious, and it is exemplary of the kind of silent violence that underlies the department's every move. It's wild that $1 billion department's guiding principle still seems to be fake it till you make it. Like Commissioner Kakani shared in her comments, you don't just get to disagree with the law when it doesn't serve you. The young people certainly aren't being afforded that privilege. Every day after today, Los Padrinos will be operating in violation of state law. The department, the board of supervisors, and court actors are all complicit in aiding and abetting this unlawful system. I'm not sure what more can be done by the POC, but with the lack of transparency, the lack of deliverance on data and reports that community and y'all have been asking for months, I would like to instruct or ask that you start subpoenaing some more specifics so that we do have access, especially if the department isn't willing to be forthcoming with this information that community and families are so entitled to.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, can y'all hear me? Cool. My name is Emily Zamora. I'm a youth organizer and policy associate with Youth Justice Coalition. I just want to acknowledge the fact that we are in a dire situation with Los Padrinos and on the brink of it being an illegally operating facility by the end of this week. The probation chief, Vera Rosa, has not shown his face even once to address this emergency, and the chief deputy probation officer, Kimberly Epps' only strategy is to stay quiet on the subject. Stop tap dancing around the conversation. Just last Thursday, the BSCC re-inspected Los Padrinos, and only for it to be found, you guessed it, unsuitable. It's a shocker, isn't it? The truth is that what we've all known is now coming to light. I mean, we all heard about the reports. We literally had someone just come up talking about what came out this morning. The probation department is not the answer. Youth incarceration has never been the answer. And even the tools that probation uses for intake are highly recommending for youth to be released back into their communities. From January to November 2023, 98% of girls and 88% of boys received LAD scores recommending them to be released. So why are they still being held in a soon-to-be illegally juvenile halls? The hypocrisy of the probation department to deem themselves worthy of protecting young people when they are the biggest perpetrators of harm and abuse is insane. You are not above the law. You're not above the law. Working with youth at Chucos this past year, I've seen the difference it makes to show up for our youth with love, with respect, with kindness, with support, with time. That is what our youth need, not to be locked up and have their lives played with as probation has been doing for years. Do right by our youth. They deserve it. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. After Isabella, we'll go to online comment and then we'll come back.
Good morning, Isabella with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the many youth ARC works with inside these juvenile halls and also when they come home. Today, next to me, there's more than 10 ARC transitional aged youth attending this POC meeting who at one point were considered the worst by the system, locked up in these unsuitable facilities who have been found unsuitable more than 5 times. We're not meaningfully supported, and that's why ARC is there for them. It's sad to see how bad things have gotten. It's heartbreaking that the department does not want to accept change, doesn't want to meaningfully help them, and are more concerned about getting paid for not working and stuff that literally has nothing to do with bettering the youth that they are so fearful of. It's sad because I work with them. They are here today, and despite their past, they want to do good and rise up for themselves. It's difficult to inspire hope and advocate for change when incidents like this persist. How can I and my fellow advocates encourage change within the young people like myself when too often we're met with excuses, empty promises, and no real solutions or effective outcomes? At ARC, I see this magic happening. We work with the same people probation does not want to, and we are not scared. We are not worried about salaries or positions. We are worried about our youth, and that's what drives our everyday work. I urge the POC to work close with us and others to begin saving youth from this department. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to online comment and we're going to start with Lupe Ross. Thanks for being here, Lupe. We're going to unmute you and you may need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead, Lupe.
Thank you. I just want to make these statements. Probation department is a rogue department, and we all just need to face that. The chief is a coward. Ms. Epps condoned this in the tapes that were released. I believe the Attorney General should step in and go to court, remove these 2 people out of their positions, and let's move on with trying to fix it. Ms. Epps and the chief are not going to do it. They've already expressed that. It was recorded. Why are we going to continue to try to work with people that aren't out there for our kids? The Attorney General should go in and do something about this. The chief is a coward to me, and I'm a family member. I had a grandson that was on probation. He was in juvenile hall. The only time he got any help was at a camp. Okay, the chief should be fired. Ms. Epps should be fired because she was complicit with months ago undermining everybody, not being truthful. A month ago, she stated this was not good. They were not going to comply, put my stuff out on the curb. Well, you complied. You're guilty, Ms. Epps. You are part of this problem, as well as the chief. What about the RFA process? The attorney said there's 100 kids under his watch that can be released for nonviolent crimes, some for missing school, ditching school, whatever. Why are those kids still being detained? If not to keep the numbers up to get us to this, force us to this position.
That's your time, Ms. Ross. Thank you very much. Also, RFA process means resource family approval. That's the process by which families are approved to house youth in their homes. We'll go next to James Maddox.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, terrific, terrific. Well, I'm glad to be back. First observation, these are children. And what sort of behavior are you demonstrating to children that you do not adhere to rules and regulations? That's just a question. About 15 months ago, I raised an issue that got some folks uncomfortable, and that was to take this $1 billion organization department and shut it down. My attitude still remains the same: shut it down. And as a consultant and a social worker, and before that I was worked for a couple of large companies, I have no problem becoming the person handing out pink slips. They need to be shut down. $1 billion, and this department has, if you take a look at the budget, is the source of unrealized liabilities arising out of children being assaulted. Thank you.
Thank you, James. We'll go next to Vivian Wong.
My name is Vivian Wong, education attorney with the Youth Justice Education Clinic at Loyola Law School. I'm a member of LAYUP and the Education Justice Coalition. I represent young people who've been trapped in a cycle of incarceration, young people who are detained only because of the failures of the systems that were meant to serve them. It is shameful that we detain young people for not going to school when they don't feel safe or welcome or receive quality education. It is shameful that we detain young people because we have nowhere else to house them. It is shameful that we continue to detain young people when the county knows that Los Padrinos is unsuitable. Recently, I met with my detained client who asked me what was going to happen to him. He's been reading the news and following this chaos. He is afraid, he is anxious, and he is one of many who feel this way. How is the probation chief not here today? How does a leader not show up to answer the community's questions in a time of crisis? This is no leader, and the department's silence only shows that it adds no value to solving this crisis. Now I have to go back to my clients and explain that there is no plan and that the county is choosing to defy the law by keeping them detained in unsuitable facilities. We see your disregard for the law and for our young people. The only way out of this situation is to come up with a comprehensive plan to release as many young people as possible and to keep youth out of custody because we have proven incapable of keeping them safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. We'll go to Audrina and then come back to the room for in-person comment. Audrina, you can unmute yourself.
My personal experiences with the probation department. My son, he was in Orange County, and they transferred him to Los Padrinos. In Orange County, he was going to be a youth counselor, and they promoted him to be a leader in his unit. While in Los Padrinos at court, they labeled his behavior as a problem. So now you have two probation departments saying two different things. How can one probation department say that he's a great kid? You know, he has no issues, no problems, and as soon as he touches Los Padrinos, all of a sudden it's a problem. Now, two probation officers, departments can't say the same two different things. So maybe it's not the kids. And I know a lot of officers come on here and blame the kids for a lot of the non-compliance and faults of the department, when it's really not their fault, because LA County is the only probation department in California that's in non-compliance. So how can these other departments be successful and they're the only ones that are not successful? How can other departments say a kid's a great kid and then LA County is the only one that says he's not a good kid, he's a problem? It doesn't make much sense at this point, and I just wanted to share that experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Audrina. We'll come back to the room. Welcome. You can begin.
morning. My name is Joshua Charles. I'm with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. What I wanted to shed light to is that I don't want to get in the habit of blaming. There needs to be more solutions. And what I mean by solutions is that I was a product of the system, unfortunately, and I was also an inmate at Los Padrinos over 20-something years ago. And during my stay there, you know, we were conditioned and sent down the manufacturing line and can set up to go to the next stages, meaning from placement to camp to youth authority to the county on to the prison system. And when I got to the prison system and we would share stories with each other, I would then learn that the generations before me went through the exact same cycle to the same system. So we would then have a discussion about what if funding went to the community, because it's about community. Early childhood teachings condition lifelong habits. So if you teach a child at a young age that he or she is a delinquent or, you know, somewhat of a convict, for lack of a better term, it will then instill that inside that child, and then they will grow up to believe that. I personally believe that there needs to be more funding towards the community things, because when you go in the community, there's nothing for the children to go into right now either. So Los Padrinos is not a solution. It continues a cycle that we feel that needs to be broken, and more light needs to be shed, because there are stories behind these children. What if you learned that there was a young male that was raped and then he never shared that with nobody and then ran to the streets because he didn't have a family, and then resulted to the gang life, and now incarceration, he's yelled at by a staff member, and then they're having a conflict, but he doesn't share his deepest secrets with you, but he's labeled a certain way. That means that the mental health is never paid attention to, and that's why I feel that mental health is the ultimate solution to these things, so that staff and the inmates and the children can all have some form of a bridge, because there's no middle ground. All we hear is what the officers feel and what the inmates feel, but there's a middle ground in there, and it comes from community. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua.
Good morning, Tanya Ivanez from Hangout Do Good. I'm disappointed, obviously, that we don't know what the plan is. I'm disappointed that the Department of Probation cannot maintain the required staffing goals that they set for themselves. And at this point, I'm recommending that the board, the Probation Oversight Committee, seriously consider sending a letter to the State Attorney General's office, Rob Bonta, urging him to file a motion to have a receiver put in place. You're not getting the answers from the chief that you deserve. There doesn't seem to be a plan in place for these kids, and it's time that someone else take over. Unfortunately, we've been hearing a lot about staff not coming into work. Well, they're going to soon find themselves without a job if Los Padrinos closes. So that's where we're at, and I think it's time that the State Attorney General get a receiver in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. We're going to go back to virtual comment with, I think it's Byron. I just lost that. Thank you. With Byron.
Byron Jose with the Translatina Coalition. Shut it down. You should be closing all these probation camps, because this is our taxpayers' money. So we can definitely come to these meetings and tell you that and speak on that. The fact that the chief, Guillermo Villaraigosa, is not present here and he's sending staff to say, like, how dare this probation oversight committee do its job and send recommendations of what they should be doing better. These people should be at work. They're getting paid. They're on the clock. They're taking their taxpayer money to be here and speak on that instead of doing their job. We want to make sure that our young people are being cared for and they're being safe and protected. And obviously, this failed department continues to not do that. And yes, we can sue them, we can shut it down, and we will look forward to the members of this body to really listen to the community voices, to listen to the youth, and uphold these concerns. Thank you.
Thanks for being in this space, Byron. We have one more virtual public commenter, and then we'll go back to commissioners. It's Ashley Smith. Ashley, you can begin whenever you unmute.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We sure can. You can start.
Hi, I want to make a comment regarding what's going on. You know, often the officers are being scapegoated for what is occurring in juvenile hall. But if we were given the tools to be able to gain control and make it safe. I've been working for probation for many, many years. And I remember a time where we had policies in place where there was accountability for bad behavior. Unfortunately, now the youth that we have in our custody have no respect for authority, and our tools are being taken away. People do not feel safe going to work, and the department doesn't address the issue. It's a safety issue. Make the hall safe again, and you will get the staff there to get it under control. We love the kids and we want them to be successful, but we also cannot be placed in harm's way. We want to be there for the kids and help them out, but we need the resources to be able to take the halls back under control. We have been stripped away from power to be able to hold them accountable for bad behavior, the bad behavior that put them in custody. We play around and pretend that these kids are in good standing. So no, they're here because of a reason. And that's all I want to say. Just make the hall safe again and you'll have staff in there. We're begging to be in there and working, but we cannot take the chance to be hurt, seriously hurt for our families. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that ends public comment. If anybody else here in the room, thank you. Commissioners, any further comments or questions? Commissioner Meredith?
Yeah, I just want to address a couple things. One is Mr. Bell brought up accountability, and that is true. Accountability on both sides. There does need to be accountability for bad behavior by the youth, and also any accountability by staff if they're not performing to standards. There also has to be accountability all the way up to management and that transparency and communication. One of the things that people don't realize is that, or I don't think they realize, is the probation department is far greater than just the youth custody facilities. We have many more aspects of the department. It's the youth at custody facilities that are getting all the attention, rightfully so. However, the people that are in custody are not there because we ask them to be there. It's because the courts have put them there, and we have to deal with that. And we also have 1,100 vacancies in the organization. So for those that want solutions, I would encourage you maybe to apply and help fill those vacancies.
Commissioner Kakani?
I just thought it would also be helpful to like read out loud Government Code 1222, which states that every willful omission to perform any duty enjoined by law upon any public officer or person holding any public trust or employment, that includes the chief, that includes deputy chiefs, where, again, I'll start from the beginning. Every willful omission to perform any duty enjoined by law upon any public officer or person holding any public trust or employment where no special provision is made for the punishment of such delinquency is punishable as a misdemeanor. And this very much feels like a willful omission to perform the duty enjoined upon you by law.
Thank you. Before we move on, I just have a clarifying question for Deputy Chief Epps. Henceforth, should we expect any updates related to Title 15 and Title 24, or is that going to be just relegated to County Council and we get information when the Board of Correction has a report?
Until I receive different information, I will find out, get the clarification. That's why I said the councils need to talk. But I do want to address Commissioner Prater's last question, which was, are the evacuation facility sites or sites suitable? Yes, they are. We do have an emergency services team, and we do have the appropriate places to evacuate youth for natural disasters.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to agenda item 4. We will discuss and take possible action on updates on a report from the Los Angeles County Probation Department on use of force incidents at Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, a statistical overview of the use of force incidents, backlog and current, and an explanation of how use of force cases are processed. We have attached the use. Okay, so let me find myself. Where was I? We have attached the use of force report for September and the current report from November if it has been provided. Chief Deputy Epps, please proceed with your report back. We don't have the November report.
Thank you. We will have two presenters, Director Frank Imperial and myself. And Mr. Imperial will address the questions, how many of the backlog cases have been resolved, which was a question from the commission. How many have been referred to internal affairs? How many are beyond the 1-year POBAR timeline pursuant to California Government Code Section 3303? We did not receive the information from internal affairs in time based upon my late request. We should have that information today and I will send it. And then the other questions, how many cases have not been reviewed and how far back do the cases go? Probation is to provide a copy of the new departmental policy and timeline for use of force reviews. The policies are still in draft form and being worked through with our work group, and I can discuss that after Mr. Imperial makes his portion of the presentation.
Thank you. Director Imperial.
Good morning to all. Currently, the current process right now is that the facility conducts video reviews on the front end. My team has been tasked with closing them out in the probation case management system. So once we receive the video review documents, we go ahead and we process the case in the system. We currently have 288 cases that we have not processed, meaning my team has not closed them out in PCMS, but they have been reviewed at the facility level by the managers to check for any kind of use of force issue, and they address it at the facility. That would be 146 for October and 142 for November. There are 235 cases that we've completed and are ready to enter into the system. 161 are in draft and we're closing them out. There are 62 cases that we're not able to close because we have physical intervention reports that are not completed because the staff were either injured or out on industrial accident or they have resigned. I believe we have about 12 cases that may fall under where when a youth record is sealed, if they're involved in the use of force, they automatically close it out. They pull the records from PCMS. We're not able to view that in the system. We currently don't have anything. I think the other question was that goes beyond a year. All those cases have been reviewed.
Sorry, can you just repeat those numbers again?
Sure. So for November, we have 142 cases where facility managers have reviewed the video footage and have completed a video review form. My team has not processed those cases yet. For October, there is 146. Of those 146, the facility managers have conducted a video review and completed a video review form. There leaves us with 235 cases, 161 of which my team has completed the video, completed the assessments, and we're going to upload those into our probation case management system, hopefully by the end of next week. There are 61 cases that we're not able to close because the staff that was involved did not complete a report because they resigned or they were injured and were not able to complete that report.
Is that the
Yes.
of the report? Okay, Commissioner Meredith.
Okay, maybe I'm frustrated because I do come from both worlds here, but the world of law enforcement. And in my agency, when there's use of force, I can pretty much say it's gone all the way up through management to internal affairs in 24 hours for a preliminary review. And then there's a decision made to whether or not there should be follow-up. And nothing on you, but this department's had a long history of dragging these things out and not doing things in a timely manner. And that word accountability comes up again. And I guess my frustration is because it leaves the employee out there hanging to what's my status, as well as if there was a wrongdoing, any discipline that could come from it, and the victims are out there. And when it says, well, the person resigned or they were injured and couldn't give a statement, was there nobody else around or the video to explain things? I guess I just get frustrated because it shouldn't take so long to close out a use of force case.
Commissioner Kokani. Oh, would you like to respond to that?
I did want to address, there is a portion that Director
Commissioner Kokani.
Okay, so these, the use of force cases, are we just talking specifically out of LP, or this is all halls and camps?
I can only address specifically for Los Padrinos.
Okay,
That's
great,
where my
thank
team
you.
works out of. Yeah.
And sorry, which department, like what, I don't know what it's called. Like there's internal affairs, there's the crisis intervention team, there's first, like what is your
It was a
purview?
use of force team that was originally at Los Padrinos, but we have them off-site so they can focus on closing these cases out.
Okay, so you're part of a use of force team.
Correct, at the facility level.
And then per the settlement with the California Department of Justice, each of these cases is supposed to be sent to first, correct?
Correct.
And have each of these cases been sent to first?
I will leave that up to Chief Epps to address. in
Or is
regards to
first is first still disbanded?
Commissioner, I can address that in my portion of the presentation, but if you want me to answer now, I certainly will, whichever you prefer.
Now's a good time.
Okay, so on August 2nd, we disbanded first as it is known. One supervisor was taken from the team and reassigned under Mr. Imperial. One staff was removed from the team and reassigned to our Systems Accountability Bureau. The remainder of the team was reassigned to Los Padrinos. And that included and I could have the numbers a little wrong, that included 1 director, 4 assistant directors, and another supervisor, and then a clerk and a couple of other staff. In doing that, we layered that into Mr. Imperial's team, and he will explain the process for that. And then I will go further after that so that it flows correctly into what we did with that team. Okay. I want to address the thing between the facilities.
Okay, I just, for the public, right, the first, I believe is, I actually don't remember what it's a force intervention response something team. And it was essentially part of a settlement agreement that was entered into by probation in LA County and the Attorney General, entered into, again, a court of law. And its existence was essentially mandated. So I understand that now there's like a new configuration, but then part of the issue, right, is that there are these use of force incidents that are not receiving the appropriate review. And part of the issue, again, I understand that, there's internal affairs and there's other bodies that these things can be reviewed, that these incidents can be reviewed by. But the purpose of first was really to identify if there were patterns of misconduct or if there are issues that required additional training. So like what has happened then since the disbandment and present in terms of that review? Is that just not occurring right now until the protocols are updated and the reconfiguration is complete?
One, I will say the information that you have is inaccurate.
Okay, then please
Director
correct me.
Imperial is going to address the current process that is in place, and then I will address further what we're continuing to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So then of these cases, I think it was 142 from October and 142 from November and 146 use of force cases in October, which again are quite large numbers, as you mentioned. Do we know are you able to share how many of those, not what the internal affairs like assessment was, but how many were sent to internal affairs? Have they all been sent to internal affairs? Either one of you.
I'm going to say again, Mr. Imperial is going to address not only what happened with the process, and I want to say again, first, as you knew it, disbanded may be my incorrect use of the word, was changed. He's going to address what is happening to deal with that process. He's also going to address why the use of force numbers appear higher than they actually are in the count that you have. And then I will proceed to talk about what we are further doing.
Then I guess I can wait until that
Yeah, I think
presentation
we
to ask
should-
my questions.
Yeah, I think we should let them finish their presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I thought the presentation was done.
So currently what my team does when we review a case, and this is specifically to Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, when my team reviews the case and we identify any policy issues or training issues, I share that information with the superintendent, and I have been doing that. since August, sharing that information on cases that I've come across that require additional training or any kind of policy issues. And then we close it out in the system. The front end part of this is that the facility is also reviewing video footage and catching stuff too, and making referrals where they are and triaging cases where they deem fit.
So in real time, an incident now happens at the facility. With the process having the first team, and then it goes to Mr. Imperial's team, then they make referrals. So the piece that changed is that in real time, all of the directors in the facility, the assistant superintendents, the superintendent, all of the director level had CCTV installed on their laptop, which was not previously available. So in real time, when incidents happen, immediately review the video, make the efforts to obtain the incident reports. Sometimes people are hurt, sometimes things carry over. There's limits on if somebody's at, say, 16 hours, we don't go past 16 hours on a shift, to get the reports at the soonest possible time. So in real time, directors are reviewing those videos of the incident, and if there is something amiss, hey, this doesn't look okay, in real time, we're making referrals to internal affairs, much to Commissioner Meredith's point. We're also having the discussions in real time. Hey, this needs to have these issues addressed. So in addition to that, because it is important, as I've said in this body, as I've said in other forums publicly, to look at use of force real time. I too come from a culture where that is how it's done. Historically, because of the high numbers at Los Padrinos, that system was not put in place. So we have changed the use of force reporting policy, which is a draft. We've changed the administrative review policy. We've written a procedural process for that review. We have a workflow document that is complete. We have a team that includes Director Imperial, Director Eric Rayleigh, Consultant Michael Miner, Consultant Joe Galvan, Consultant Stephanie Roque, and the superintendents from the facilities. What we've been doing is working through the process that's in place to do the real-time reviews. Mr. Imperial's team continues to do reviews. He then discusses what they've reviewed with this superintendent. Oh yeah, we've already looked at that, a referral's been made, and then they close out the case. Because the facility right now doesn't close out the case and directors do not have the capability to do that, there are several cases that appear to be open when they actually are not. In addition to if someone has a sealed juvenile record, there's a barrier there. In addition to not being able to close it out if someone's out. That is not an ideal process. So in looking at the whole process continuum, we're looking at how we're going to address that in real time. What can happen? Do you put an indicator now in PCMS as part of the new policies? What we're doing to reviewing now, working on the use of force guidelines. What is the types of use of force that are permissible in the use of force continuum? So we could do that. Also coming up with a different training plan. We added to our most recently approved BSCC training plan, a force options identifier for managers, for line level staff, and for supervisors. And in that force options, it will include case law updates regarding use of force. It will retrain on how to review reports for supervisors and managers, something that's been lacking. It will revisit use of force continuum for line level staff, and we will continue to address that. We would love to have been completed with everything, but I'd rather we go slow and correct than fast and then have to revisit it, because use of force is a significant issue. It has been for many years, and many of the processes that are in place are not in complement to what needs to be done for the benefits of youth and for staff to be appropriately trained. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes.
Move on to questions. Would you clarify what PCMS is for the commissioners and the public?
I'm sorry, probation case management system.
Thank you. Commissioner Meredith?
Yeah, I'm just a little confused. And I mean, I went through the use of force policies years ago when Chief McDonald was here, and they were flawed at that time. And I've we're working to prove it. But now we're talking about Los Padrinos only. Who reviews other use of forces from the field, from other facilities? There seems to be no centralized process, and that was one of the concerns I had years ago, was when there's not a centralized process, we don't recognize any training needs, hazards to staff, hazards to youth, and I'm kind of looking for that. There's like one clearinghouse that sees everything.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Meredith. Once our use of force policy continuum, all of the policies are correct, there will be a standing use of force review committee. A portion of reports will be reviewed as they currently are now in Mr. Imperial's shop. Those at the facility, he and the superintendent at all of the facilities will then forward those to the review table. We will also have in place for the first time a process that looks at any field incidents. That's our adult and juvenile officers that may have a use of force incident in the field. It will be reviewed during that same process. Prior, for several years now, and as far back as the chief requested that I review, there has not been a standing use of force review component within the department that comes to the table, looks at the video, reviews the reports, and identifies what correction needs to be made. You don't review the use of the IA cases that are referred because it's disciplinary, as you know, and subject to confidentiality. But you are able to review what needs to be remediated for the employee by way of training, and you look at it in a command cycle continuum. Do we have a problem with training? And then we make the corrections to training and identify that process. Do we have a policy issue? Then we make the necessary correction to policy. If in that way.
Like if there's a facilities issue where the facility is creating hazard for the officers or staff or youth.
Exactly. So throughout that continuum, it will improve the timeliness of reviews, particularly those that we have found in years review, and we all know what's before the public, to get to those more expeditiously and to make more timely referrals, and to be very current and on top of training needs and things that might not suit the policy. Because although you write your policies and you hope to catch everything, there are often things that you continually review so that you can make the necessary corrections that will come with a process that has a better continuum.
Commissioner Kakani.
Sorry, so did we get the explanation for why the numbers were so high?
Mr. Imperial's, well, I'm going to address it again.
Okay.
As Mr. Imperial stated, the numbers are off for 4 reasons. You have staff that may have been injured and may be out on leave, and currently the department has a process that is not reasonable, and it does not allow you to close that case in PCMS, so it will continue to show open.
So of the, I think it was 288 cases from October and November that were, I don't know, incomplete or haven't, I don't know what the correct term is. Is that right? 146 from October and 142 from November?
Yeah, 280, my team has not reviewed. My team has reviewed 235 cases,
Okay.
not part of the 288. And that's where the 61 number is coming from.
Okay, got it. So how many total use of force cases were there then in October and November? You're saying
For October, November is 288 cases.
total?
Total.
That's a pretty high number. So I'm not talking about how many have been reviewed or unreviewed. Was there an explanation for why that number is, like why the number of use of force cases is so high, or there's no specific explanation for that?
That's another
That's a separate
agenda
question.
topic.
Okay, we're just talking about.
Okay. But what I do want to say, Commissioner, I think on this point we'll agree to disagree. In that number, several of the cases are actually closed, as I stated, for the 4 reasons given.
I heard that,
Thank
but it's okay. So that's again, 62 cases weren't able to be closed because staff have left or are on leave. I think 12 cases because, is that not?
No.
I guess this is why it's also helpful if there, I know that maybe there was a delay in documentation, but it's so
No.
hard to track.
No, again, aside from the numbers that were stated that are closed, or these are closed. In addition to that, other cases cannot be closed in the probation case management system because if you have a sealed record, it can't be closed.
Okay.
If you are on leave, it can't be closed.
I got that.
And the other 2 reasons given. But I just want to be clear that even that number is lower because we have introduced real-time use of force reviews at the facility level, and inappropriately so because it needs to be fixed in the department. When they are reviewing these incidents in real time in the department at the director level, they do not have permissions in the probation case management system to close the case.
Okay, so then it's almost like these numbers don't mean anything. It's kind of what it feels like. Like, it's hard to just make sense of them. I would also, I know Mr. Bates is here with the Office of the Inspector General and is kind of monitoring compliance with specific elements related to the settlement agreement. And it would be great to hear kind of how this change is comporting with your compliance monitoring, if possible.
If you're willing, Mr. Bates.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I was not expecting to be here, so I'm not wearing a tie, so excuse me for that. Well, as you know, our reports have continued to have an issue with the timely reporting of the use of force cases to first. And the concern we have is that when we learned that it was apparently disbanded or reorganized, I think it failed to keep the inherent component of first, which was to be an independent review process. It was there to identify systemic problems, patterns, things of that nature, and not just, actually, I don't believe it was initially to be a review of, an initial review of uses of force. That would come from the director, and then if there were issues seen, it would be sent to IA. So I think somewhere lost is the purpose of first, and I don't know if that has been retained. I do plan on meeting with the chief and Ms. Epps because that was one of our concerns. So to answer your question, Commissioner, we are continuing to see problems with reviewing. It is getting better with Mr. Imperial's team, but there is still a lack of timely reviewing.
It sounds like lack of timely reviewing and also independence, or like a, okay. Thank you for that. That is wildly helpful. I'll pass it to my right.
Commissioners, before we go on with our questions and comments, I was going to give the public a chance so we can just kind of come back to us. Wendy, do we have any public written comment?
I actually don't think we had received any written public comment on this item before the meeting. We may have during the meeting. It will certainly be uploaded. We welcome public comment. You can stand up in line at the podium. If you'd like to make a comment online virtually, you must be on WebEx and use the little raise your hand function at the bottom of the screen. You can't make any public comment on YouTube. You have to hop onto the WebEx stream, and we will give 2 minutes. Si quiere hacer comentario público, por favor, use la manita, la imagen de la manita en la parte baja de la pantalla de WebEx. Okay, you can begin. Welcome.
My name is Vanessa Perez. I'm the mother of Joseph and Perez. I want to say that the use of force, to make sure that we're doing better background checks before we're putting these deputies into our schools and working with other minor children, because they allowed this to happen on the street. The patrol deputies, Paul Sedano, to do this on the street and put him on a school to work with minors. So we need to do better background checks on that. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Good morning, Byron Jose with the Trans-Latina Coalition. So the public is to believe that when working with unarmed youth that are being held and subjected to as close to legalized slavery in the year 2024, that staff are being injured enough to not be able to finish a report. Where is the commanding officers? Where is management? Where are the supervisors? Your first case of excessive force wasn't this week, wasn't this month, or wasn't even today. You have a long history of excessive force. So the fact that probation department can show up here without the stats, the data, or the report needed to have an efficient oversight commission meeting is speaks to the fact that one, this department definitely likes to operate like as they're above the law and above any oversight. Instead, you may receive this data later today at some point behind closed doors without the public being aware of what is happening or not happening inside Los Padrinos. Thank you for your time. Please consider directing the probation department to do a better job of bringing reports to your meetings that they're scheduled ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. I will tell you, I will make a personal guarantee that when we receive the reports that will be shared to the commission, they will be added to the agenda under this item under supplemental documents. It may take us a few minutes after we get to our computers, but those anything that is shared with all of the commissioners is an item that is shared with the public. So thank you for bringing that up, and we will certainly share it. So if you check back. Also, I welcome people to contact me or my team directly to ask for copies of public documents. If you have any trouble finding them on the agendas, we're happy to help with that.
Hello, I'm Adrian Garcia. I was incarcerated in Los Padrinos, and this is a question for the Internal Affairs, Mr. Imperial right here. If you're gonna have an interview with Internal Affairs, is the youth allowed to have the attorney on the phone or as you're getting an interview with Internal Affairs? Because I had an interview with you, and I think it was another director, and I asked for my attorney to be on the phone, and you walked out being very rude. You were like, I'm not gonna go through your attorney. You know, me being a youth, talking to the police, law enforcement, I wanted my attorney to be there, and so that's probably a reason why one of the cases never got solved. You know, so that's what I gotta say. But I think you should be able to have your attorney right there if you're gonna have an interview with the law enforcement regarding internal affairs. And you walked out. No, nothing. You said, you told me straight to my face, I'm not going through your attorney. And it's not right. That's all I got to say. I remember it like yesterday.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gerardo Gomez. I'm with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Man, this is really sad, because when I was 15, I was incarcerated in Barry J. Dornoroff. Did 17 years. But I sit here amongst the youth that we work with and that we try to help out. And I put myself in their shoes and I ask myself, how would I feel if I was sitting here? Because I was them. And if I was here, to be completely honest, I would be like very disappointed because the people who are in charge of supposedly helping me are not helping me. And then you got people who are adults asking for accountability and responsibility for adults. And how do you even ask for accountability when you can't even hold yourself accountable to begin with? And then outside of that, what's more sad is I asked myself, I got a job. I came from where they're at right now. If I were to go to my job and not be ready for work, I probably wouldn't have a job. And then you come up here and you show the example of what it is to supposedly be in a position to help, and you don't help. Because one thing I've learned through my incarceration and what got me out of jail was responsibility and accountability. And the biggest way to show action is through your actions. You could come here and talk all you want, but if your actions don't correlate with your words, then what are you really talking about? Because your actions speak louder than words, and you guys got to just do better because you guys know better, because you're trying to be in charge of the people who don't know better, in essence, who need the guidance and need the help. And you're not doing that. You're failing, and that's sad. Thank you.
Thanks, Gerardo.
Good morning. My name is Don. I just did 7 years incarcerated up in the juvenile halls. Recent 7 years too. I just got out 4 weeks ago, something like that. Yeah. So basically, this is my first time knowing about this and knowing that this been going on. She just told me that it's been going on a month, once a month. Yeah. So, and it's surprising to me because I'm like, this been going on once a month, and we've been knowing, and I've been seeing like a couple of faces y'all walking through up in there. And I heard you say something about behavior. And, my whole time been in there was just for me about perspective on how people put things, because it was been a lot of people just worried about the bad, right? but not worry about the good. Like they say things like, what do this person get for doing bad, right? But they'll never be like, what is this person gonna get for doing good, right? So walking in like that type of place, you don't get good results off doing good. You get good results off doing something bad. You know, you get recognition off knocking somebody out. You don't get recognition off helping somebody up. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a perspective. And like he said, you know, we got to take the blaming game because I don't know the situation of what's your name is Epps. You know, I don't know who. I think everybody at the table answered to somebody. You know, so I don't know who it is. You know, I'm the type of person I like to talk to the source so I can really put it out there. But in my mind, we just got to change our perspective and come to agreement. For one, that's all going to work out in the best way possible inside. Because I've been in there a long time, and it's more women in there than men. And what that woman was saying is true. It's like you got some staff that's good that do want to be there, but then again, if they go in there, they got families too. If they're not gonna feel safe, why would I go? Why would you go there? I mean, I'm not gonna tell my mom to go to no stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, we just got to change our perspective. That's all I got to say.
Welcome home. Welcome to the Probation Oversight Commission. Glad to have you here. We're going to go to virtual public comment. If there are more folks who want to give comment in the audience, you can do so afterwards. We'll start with Nadine Davila. Nadine, you can unmute yourself.
A bias committee, and that we're, no matter what, if we have a badge, we're always going to be in the wrong. So, but I do want to.
Nadine, I'm going to stop you. There's kind of an echo with your voice. I'll start your time again, but can you?
Okay. Let me see if I can mute myself. Is that better?
It's better, yes.
Because I can't hear you. So, again, I was saying I understand that there's a bias against anybody that has a badge, but if we're being honest, as the young man just said before, we are all in the same game. We all have the same interests, whether they're the CBO or probation. The representatives that speak on our behalf on the line are not in the same line with us. We want to help these kids. Most of us, if not all of us, do above and beyond. The use of force is, we agree with Meredith, and Meredith has been saying this for a long time. There's absolutely no reason why us officers are not getting the responses and being held to scrutiny for months and stress and, you know, being threatened for discipline when this should be dealt with immediately. Like I said before, we have cameras. There's no reason why the officers can't see the video to write their reports. There's absolutely no reason why we don't have any transparency in this department. And I'm just baffled with the complete rhetoric every time bashing every single one of us on probation. When we care, we love these kids. And there's no reports ever about these parents that are bringing in contraband every week. And we know it's happening. There's no reports about the drugs that are coming in over the walls and everything that's contributing to the use of force because of the drugs. You're right, they're unarmed, but it's very difficult to restrain a person that's under the influence, not only because of the physical force, but also because of the health components that come with it. So we really need to start holding the parents accountable too.
Thank you, Nadine. And we'll go next to, call-in user number 13. Your number starts with 310, and you need to dial *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can begin.
This is Supervisor Perry. I just want to call in and say that for the numbers about PCMS, when there's a still record or an officer not there, not being able to report, there is a way that we can go into PCMS and still close it and flag it a different way. Just wanted to let everyone know so we can have true numbers and reflect true numbers. So POC won't be on our back as much, but there is a way for us to go into PCMS and close all those things. If anyone needs help, everyone knows where they can reach me at. That's it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Crystal Jones. Crystal, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Probation Oversight Commission. I would just like to uplift the concern as a woman as a mother, as an advocate for youth, the safety, the fear, the trauma, and unawareness that our youth have when they're entering into these detention centers. Just like the one youth said that was incarcerated, he asked for an attorney. An attorney should be mandatory, especially when you're having situations where it's ongoing use of force. And the attorney could have the best interest, not only for the system and probation, but also for that child and youth that's involved, as well as that probation officer or whoever might be in charge at the time. The 16-hour shift days of these employees to be in our children's care is essential. Putting ourselves in their shoes, what if this was our child or our youth or our family member? How will we look at the care and the support and the focus as a priority to be the change, bring change, and induce and produce change? The use of force has to be eliminated, streamlined, and has to be held accountable for the detrimental results and outcomes and social emotional trauma our youth are facing daily. We need to close down this place. The use of force and fear that is induced from these type of incidents, I ask you to care to protect our vulnerable population, which is our youth and our parents that are in the middle. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. We'll go back to live commenters and start with Raquel.
Yes, I'd like to state that we are seeing a real-time example of why the probation folks act as they do. Everything's come from the top down. So when we know that the chief and the deputy chief feel they're above the law, this trickles down to your rank and file. So that's clearly, we have a gentleman here that I believe we've had people from that are probation that are calling or giving public comments about it's not our fault, it's this commission's fault. Blaming parents for them not being responsible. No one's looking at themselves. Like no one made you become a probation officer. No one told you to do that. You decided that was the path you wanted to take, and hopefully you thought you could help youth. I'm hoping that's why y'all did it. But we just keep hearing excuses. It's not our fault. It's the commission's fault. It's that's fault. Leadership has the ability to set the tone of what needs to be done. So I am speaking actually to the rank and file. You should be looking at your chief. You should be looking at your leadership. They're the ones that actually have the power to make the change. But also, probation does the thing that all law enforcement does. We have to blame the people that are being abused, right? As Commissioner Meredith said, they're not in good standing. They're not in good standing. That's why they're in the halls. But that doesn't mean that you treat them inhumanely because they're not in good standing. Yes, you did. We can go back and re-roll that tape, but I'm not here to argue with you. So I am saying, probation department, look to yourselves. Rank and file, look to your leadership who has the problem or has a problem and has the power. This commission is just a commission. They literally don't have legal power to make your boss do what they need to do. And stop blaming everyone else but yourself, including parents and the youth themselves that are here and are bravely telling about their experiences. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? Do we have anybody else online? Did I miss something? Martinez is the last name. Sorry, I didn't hear what the first name you said was. Karina. Okay. Oh, hi, Karina. You can unmute yourself. Karina, can you hear me? You're unmuted on our side, Karina. I heard I can hear the feedback, so I think. Karina, we'll welcome your public comment later on in the meeting. Sorry, we can't hear you right now. If you want to chat on the WebEx, we can try to do some technical assistance.
Commissioners, any final comments or questions? Commissioner Brooks.
Ms. Epps, this September 11th, 2024 use of force document that you signed and provided to us, this chart on the first page, that is raw numbers of total uses of force at Los Padrinos, correct? sorry, if you, do you want it?
It's attached to the agenda.
Oh, sorry, it was printed here for me.
Let me get a copy.
Let me run it over. I got it.
Thank you.
That chart, you see the chart I'm referring to?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
So that number of 800 total use of force incidents between January 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2024, that's just raw data, correct?
Yes, with a brief codicil, Commissioner Brooks.
The what?
With a brief, just a statement in there. Yes, they are. However, we have been working internally, and I've mentioned it publicly before, to reconcile because there are bad tracking systems. So I have seen conflicts in the numbers, but yes, and we've been working on that as we're working through the series of policies. But yes, ma'am, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That is an unacceptably high number of violent incidents in Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall. For any of any issue investigations that you've conducted where there, let me ask that, I don't know how to ask it particularly, but have you been reporting to the post commission any findings that you've had where there are separations, terminations? You've mentioned some staff has resigned, any firings, any things like that, any issues that you've needed to report to the post commission, and have you done so within the required 10 days under code section 13510.9?
Commissioner Brooks?
My last name's Harris. It's
I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Harris. It's
I'm
okay.
sorry, ma'am,
It's all good.
Harris. I'm learning the new faces. I apologize. We're not a post agency. Probation departments, the authority for our standards and training and corrections falls under the Board of State and Community Corrections. The training plan that's set forth for us for probation corrections officers, juvenile corrections officers, managers that do their management training, and all of that falls under the BSCC. However, I do not know if we're reporting that to post and getting up to speed on the department. I've been here just over a year, but no excuse. I've never asked, I will admit here in this body, what we're reporting to post, because in my 36-year career, that's not been something that I've dealt with, and I've dealt with most things in probation. So I will check to find out, is just as an informational, we are reporting anything to post, and I will get back. Can I respond to that next month, or do you want an answer sooner?
You can respond next month, but I want to
Okay.
just clarify this last statement that you made, that you've never, are you saying that you just haven't dealt with these unacceptable numbers of violence that you would have to report to post, or why haven't you had to confront this in your 36 years as a probation official?
I'm sorry, I answered your first question, which was specifically about the reporting to post, but I'll go into that one. In my 36 years of service, I will be honest, these are high numbers, which is why it's taken, one of the first things that the chief tasked me with was to look critically at the policies. I used to know it off my head, but I know we have 27 different types of manuals and over 1,000 standalone directives. That can be very confusing as a department. So one thing that Chief Villarosa tasked me with when he gave me operations, I need you to prioritize which policies we need to change, specifically looking at our ability to comply with Title 15, in addition to looking at that time at non-compliance issues. So we have been going through several policies, updating those policies to make sure that they're more clear for employees and that they meet the current wording and any changes. I can tell you that that still needs to be done, which allows me to feed into, if I may, a question that came up. There was a remark that said, there's been a long history of use of force and not showing up with the information or the IA data. And as I said, that's my fault because I made the late request to Internal Affairs and I submitted my memo late to our council saying, hey, this is what I'm talking about. But I will say this, correct, there has been a long history of use of force within the department, several years. And I can tell you in reviewing the current use of force policy and looking at the current practices for reviewing use of force and the guidance and the way it's set up, it often delays seeing very critical incidents in real time and making the necessary referrals and being able to do what needs to be done immediately. So that's why we're changing that series. And that's why we immediately, when we restructured, changed first and layered that into Director Imperial's area, that's why we're working through it meticulously and put something in place to get real-time information to make real-time actions be expeditious to improve that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Prater.
Yeah, just one point of clarification. Under the OC, I guess pepper spray numbers, a total says 22. That should reflect a higher number, correct? I think 228
Where are you looking, Mr. Prater?
on that same document that
Back page or
Commissioner-
front page?
on the for LPJH for Los Patrinos.
Oh, yes, that total's incorrect.
Yeah. By my calculation, is 228 uses of pepper spray by the way,
Yes,
rather than 22.
you're right. It's not 22. It's more like 228. You are correct.
Commissioner Kakani.
Okay, sorry, two questions. One is, it would be great to also see, I know that you've provided information related to SYTF and LP around use of force. If we could see the use of force numbers on, as it relates to all facilities, whether it's Dorothy Kirby, Page, Afflerbach. Obviously, there is a huge difference between what we're seeing at Barry J and what we're seeing at LP. So it would be helpful to see that. And then also, you've given us numbers through June. Today, numbers were presented as it relates from October to November. So if we could get the July, August, and September numbers, that would be appreciated, just to see if things are continuing to track around the 140 uses of force per month, or if there's something that's jumped. And then also between facilities. And then, sorry, just one last, I think it's important to acknowledge that that this post commission and the reporting of like termination or reporting of resignation and all of that does apply to peace officers effective January 1st, 2023. Any agency employing peace officers shall report to the commission within 10 days. Any of the following events: the employment, appointment, or termination or separation from employment or appointment. So again, just one other request, I guess, that the department follow the law.
Thank you. Commissioner Meredith.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify what she said. That is under SB 2, it applies to peace officers. And while PSCC regulates CDCR and probation, be a peace officer or probation officer, they have to be too. So that under that section, it actually says custodial officers too.
Commissioner Kakani, are you asking for an update of the September 11th report that includes the months in between June and now, and includes the other facilities as well? Did I
Yes.
understand that correctly?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, before we go on break, I do want to include one number. Given that our probation officers with limited capacity are not allowed back in the office, is it possible to get numbers for use of force in the field? That way I can get a better understanding of why an officer who maybe can be at their desk, writing reports, meeting with kids, is at home burning time. So I suspect that there's got to be some kind of risk level if we're not allowing them back. And it's just not a punitive response to them having a medical excuse.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
when we get the data request, whatever the request is.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing I'd like to mention, so the leadership team for this commission clearly understands that it's an advisory board. It clearly does. We can suggest things, and we do. But what we really try to do is bring information to everybody who's involved in the space. And because of that, we meet on Monday. Next Monday, we'll meet. We review the request that my colleagues have asked. And within a week or 10 days, we share that request with the department. And we're hoping, and we understand, Ms. Epps, that there's a lot of fires out there. But we're hoping that we can get that information to the public and to our fellow commissioners with enough time to consume, process, and prepare questions. So hopefully, as we go forward, we can actually just get better at that. So everybody in here has an opportunity to really kind of get a look at the department through a data spectrum. So with that in mind, it's 11:06. We will return at 11:16 from our break, and then we'll continue to item number 5 and look forward to hearing from probation on that.
Charmanda, when we come back, can I quickly address just 3 things when we get back? Thank you. No, I'm not.
Don. Commissioners, please, so we can resume our meeting. Okay, we're gonna get going. Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's 11:19 now. And before we move on to item number 5, Ms. Epps would like to clarify a couple of things.
Thank you, Chair Mundo. The first thing I want to say, there was a young man here who stated that he had been interviewed by Director Imperio. I just want to clarify, to my knowledge and in my check with Mr. Imperio, he's never worked in internal affairs and has no responsibility for interviewing kids. But I do want to provide my card with the request that he notify POC, and he can privately provide his name and month and year, if he's aware of it, that he was interviewed. And we will check into that because we want to make sure that any concern brought to the department is addressed appropriately, and that's concerning. My second thing, ma'am, I'm sorry for what happened with your son. But I want to ask was probation, are you saying probation was involved in that?
What I was gonna say was that we need better background checks. Better background checks on who we're placing in, with our children, because the deputy that did that to my son was put into a high school.
Okay.
So when you guys are talking about this use of force that's happening with their children, well, look at the deputies you guys are putting into.
Okay.
these situations.
So that was not a school probation officer?
No.
Okay.
It was a, school resource deputy.
Okay, because I wanted to make sure that if there was a concern, that it is addressed as well. The last thing I want to address is I wasn't refusing to provide information about submissions to post. That's just something, I haven't been involved in internal affairs in a very long time or been the HR liaison for probation in a very long time. So this law came into effect, I understand, 2022. I was probably off doing something in juvenile, but it's not that we will not provide the information. I'll take that back as a request that will be provided with POC, and we will provide what we have. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, now that we're back. And measured. Chief Deputy Epps, the floor is yours.
So just as a little primer, we put in place a program called Proactive Supervision, and we implemented it on a few of the units with the plan for it to progress to other units. Our consultant, Todd Holmes, is here, and he's going to do a presentation based on the questions from our commissioners, where does it come from, and some other things. So I will give the floor to him. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hello, all. Can you hear me? My name is Todd Holmes. I was a probation officer, a supervisor. I worked in institutions. I worked in the field. Worked with many different types of youth and adults, system-involved youth, for about 30 years. I became a consultant with LA County in 2024. And one of the things that I was tasked with was to work with staff and administration at Los Padrinos to identify how to improve staff performance and safety within the institution. I firmly believe that safety of staff and safety of youth in the facility is primary. I don't believe you can accomplish anything if people don't feel safe. There are not just correction staff, there are teachers, there are mental health staff, we have medical staff, there are volunteers, and a safe environment for all is paramount. So one of the things that proactive supervision does, it addresses fundamentals of group supervision. And the reason these fundamentals are so important is because you can't really function at a high level if you're not addressing the fundamentals. So one of the cores of this is the fundamentals of group supervision in a detention setting. Thank you. There are specifics within a detention setting on how you effectively control not just groups of people, but groups of young people, adolescents, youth with specific needs, mental health needs, those with who are prone to elevated violence. To understand those things is crucial because they're real. So understanding how to address those fundamentals, how to implement those are critical. So making expectations clear to youth and staff on what will and will not be permitted throughout facility. Expectations. Establishing boundaries and expectations that are non-negotiables and staff responses that are fair and balanced. The idea and ultimately what Los Padrinos and also all of the facilities throughout LA County is that all units are to be supervised in the same uniform manner so that you have consistency. When you have staff that are, let's say, deployed from a field position, and then they show up to work on, one day they show up to work on, a girls unit, and the next day they show up to work on an intake unit. The expectations are the same of the staff are the same. The behavior that is allowed is the same. The rules are the same. The enforcement of those rules are the same. And the focus on fundamentals is paramount. So an example of fundamentals. You're in charge of a living unit and you start your day. What are the expectations of the group? Simple expectation is we do room cleanup. The room is the bed's made. Their belongings are appropriately managed. And prior to being involved in that unit programming, that is the number one, that's the first expectation. And the reason that's an expectation, number one, it's hygienic. Making sure that youth are receiving clean linen, that they're maintaining appropriate hygiene levels. And you can gauge someone's how someone is feeling by their compliance to just basic rules. If someone is struggling, you can identify that person. That doesn't mean you punish them. That means you identify them and find out what is going on with them for that day. Or do they have court? Did they just get back from court? Did they have a bad phone call the night before? Were there some threatening comments made by another youth? You identify that behavior. It's an indication that something's not right, correct? The fact that you refuse to make your bed and you can't just put your clothes over, there's something going on with you. So the idea is that staff can identify that before we get to an elevated situation where someone's now outside of the room. We've already identified that they have an issue. We haven't addressed it. And now we're dealing with someone in a group setting who now, if you're not going to make your bed, what makes you believe that this person now is going to comply with any other rules? So the idea of fundamentals is dealing with issues at its lowest level before it escalates to a higher level of intervention. So next slide, please. So the foundations of proactive supervision, they were inspired by a juvenile detention assessment process that was developed by the Annie Casey Foundation. That was established in 2006. Okay, I will tell you, proactive supervision has been. I initially wrote it, and it received STC state certification. I want to say in 2007. So it's been in practice. It was modified and adapted to meet LA County needs, but it essentially, the bones and the structure are the same. But within that Annie Casey Foundation, they listed how-to tools, which were training and supervision of employees as being paramount for a juvenile detention center. Review of serious incident reports and video, review staff response and identify training needs, observing units at different times of day, that means living units and the classroom, and speaking with staff informally. And this was done just to encourage more honest responses, which include criticisms. So that was sort of the foundation of building proactive supervision out to meet LA County's and mainly at the time Los Padrinos needs. Next slide, please. So proactive supervision was implemented by doing site visits, just observations, reading reports, reviewing video, communicating with facility staff, supervisors, and management, and just identifying immediate training needs of the institution and staff. So the curriculum was presented and plan for training of proactive supervision was reviewed by the probation staff. So this was something that was collaborative with staff. So hey, what are some things that are going to work? What do you feel is going to work? What do you think is not going to work? In conjunction with the program itself. So tailoring it to how Los Padrinos or how LA County probation wants to function. And then staff were identified, they were trained. Those trained staff then trained supervisors and continued to train other staff in the institutions. We held orientations about proactive supervision with all the youth in the classrooms and on the units to prepare them for the impending program changes. So it wasn't just rolled out one day, hey, everything you've been doing for however long you've been here is now changed. So it was a slow rollout, it was orientations, and it was actually implemented a unit at a time. I don't know if we're up to full scale. So we're not even up to, it's not even implemented fully on all of the units because we wanted to make sure that we've addressed most of the challenges that we're going to face with it. Let's see, trained facility management and supervisors on proactive supervision. Let's see, we met with and obtained input from representatives from the LA County Office of Education, LACO, mental health, and the juvenile health services. So we met with those teams and those leaders and took in their concerns, and those were addressed within the proactive supervision as well. We were able to receive a BSCC certification. I believe that was in November or August. think November, yeah. So it's a state certified program, curriculum, I should say. And we're facilitating the training of all the staff, the partner agencies, like I said, teachers, nurses, mental health professionals on proactive supervision. Everyone understands what it is. Everyone understands the expectations. One sound, one voice, that's the idea. Next slide, please. So measuring these outcomes. So we have to deal with the challenges, right? One of the main challenges is staff buy-in. It's a real thing. It's pretty universal with employment, right? Your boss rolls out something new. What's the best way to get that to have people actually participate? Well, how about get their buy-in first? How about ask their opinion? How about which is what we did. We got a group of staff together. We actually got input. Yeah, you're going to get 100% buy-in at the beginning? No, but that's the idea. The idea is that it becomes part of the expectation of your supervisor, the manager's expectations that supervisors are following through with implementing this, ensuring that all staff are trained. So that's how we would address the staff buy-in portion. Some of the units with more sophisticated youth, which is why we sort of slow rolled this out, you have to take that into account. If you have a unit that you have youth that have been at facilities, some for years, there's going to be some resistance. So in order to more effectively present this, why not work out some of the kinks with some of the more, the less sophisticated units, or some of the youth that just maybe they're on the orientation unit. Maybe they haven't been in the institution as long. If you just got there and these are the expectations and that's all you know, you're more likely to comply. We're going to have less resistance. And we also want to make sure that all the staff are trained and up to speed on it, because the worst thing we can have is inconsistencies. The worst thing we can do is send the wrong message. Hey, it's great. The staff utilized this proactive supervision on this shift, but on this shift, these staff say they haven't been trained and they're not going to do it and are refusing. So that's not what we want. We want consistency. And if the youth can expect that consistency, you're more likely to buy in. You're more likely to just go with the program if that's just the way it is. And it's not different on shift 2 than it is on shift 1. And it's like that every other day. That's actually worse. And then also with staff buy-in, it's just a general adversity to change. Kind of went over that. And that's a universal thing. It's a people thing. People tend not to like change, especially if you've been doing something for so long. And all of a sudden, whoa, I have to now adjust what I've been doing. Sometimes there's a little pushback. Sometimes there's a little resistance. I think it's human nature to a certain point. But eventually you have to get over it. We do that by training and holding people accountable, having meetings, communicating. That goes right into addressing these challenges. These daily proactive supervision evaluations to assess skills improvement, those are done by supervisors every day at the end of a shift. Also, monthly and quarterly evaluations with supervisors and facility management. Proactive supervision is not the end-all be-all. It's a foundational program, curriculum that should continue to grow, that should continue to be evaluated. There should be, there is going to be surveys with staff, surveys with youth. How is this program working? Do you feel safe? What's working? What's not working? This is something that is going to continue to live and grow and change, and it should. And then also there are some units, like we discussed, some units have different challenges than other units. And there are some units who have, maybe they have more experienced staff than other units. And that could be a challenge. So identifying that, addressing it, adding more resources where necessary, adding more training where necessary, remediation if necessary. That's how those challenges will be met, and getting staff and keeping staff up to speed. Also, there's it's called a cohort assignment, and Ms. Epps can go into it in depth. And so with the cohort assignments, essentially, you have a group of staff who start in an institution or who start in a training core class. That cohort of staff are assigned to, say, one building or one unit. And the idea is that there's more of a consistent message. If you have 8 people who just graduated from the same class and just received a curriculum together, that support system that you gain through going through a probation core training is carried on through this cohort assignment. And like I said, Ms. Epps can go in more depth about that. Next slide, please. And actually, I'll take any questions at this point, or did you want to go into that at all?
So I won't be long. Just to address the cohort, we piloted a cohort with our most recent graduating core class. Sometimes when people actually get into the facility, I remember that feeling. I worked in the facilities first for many years before becoming a probation officer. You're in this core class with everybody, and then you're off to the facility. You shadow people, and everybody sometimes has different ways of doing it. What I do in the morning may be different from what Mr. Holmes did in the morning. How I brief my kids and get them ready may be different. So what we piloted is we took those most recent 15 academy graduates and we spread them out across 2 units, L and M, I believe, and the training staff from our training unit, who are our subject matter experts now in providing proactive supervision, are embedded in that unit. So in real time, all of the things, when kids come out, what's the structure? How do you respond to incidents? How do you prepare for the day? How do you get the kids prepared for the day? What's the expectation? What's the schedule? Oftentimes, when youth don't have that consistency, what's my schedule? What's the program? Understanding, hey, this is what I can and can't do, and how we respond to you. It's consistent messaging across several weeks of training in that group. And our plan long-term is to now do that when academy classes come in. So we're looking very closely at how this is working, and I'm understanding that it has had much more success than we had even anticipated because looking at the logistics. So I'll turn that back over to Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Thank you, Ms. Epps. Commissioners, comments, questions? Commissioner Kakani, don't feel like you have to.
No, I always have to, so I'm here. Okay, so this was piloted, I think you said in L and M. When was it piloted?
Actually, Commissioner, proactive supervision began in September, the first part, maybe August. I have to get the exact dates for you. The fact that we piloted the cohort assignment of an entire academy class graduating was the most recent graduation from November. So that class did that. They spent 1 week in L&M, then they did their in-facility BSCC training, and then went right back to those 2 units and where they remain even today.
Okay. And so, sorry, you said they did their 1 week in L&M. That started in November.
November, I'll get you the exact
Okay.
date in November. And then they did BSCC. Once you come out of the academy, they do a specific intensive 1-day training going through the regulations for BSCC. Then they return to that unit where they continue to work.
And when you said, I believe you said it was like much more successful than you anticipated. What do you mean by that?
Well, you don't know when you try something new. That's why you pilot it. And I thought, what are the logistics of putting 15 people across 2 different units? We have existing staff there. We have staff that have been trained in proactive supervision. And what we did is started it with existing staff in the units. And then through their recommendation, that's why they're our training experts, that team said, what we'd like to try is put in a whole team, and they actually presented their presentation that was driven by Director Cash, so putting them in that unit. So I didn't know how that would work out with having our trainers in there. How do you train in a live environment? And it's actually my job now. But people have taken to it. They know how to do their structure. They know about the schedule. So I was concerned because I hadn't seen it, but it is working. So that's what I mean by that.
And so everyone who's working inside L&M is trained on this proactive supervision model.
Everyone that is regularly assigned there, yes, but then there have been times, as everyone here knows, there are new staff that come in through deployments, but we are catching those staff. The training unit now does training for proactive supervision for all deployment classes. I have to check on the date that they exactly started doing that so that this becomes, you'll hear a lot in training for probation, all law enforcement agencies, muscle memory. And those things, that's what we're trying to promote, muscle memory for progressive change.
And I believe it was shared that there are like clear expectations around non-negotiables, just so that things felt fair. Those are, obviously very subjective terms. So is there, I don't know, a list of what are clear expectations, what the non-negotiables are? Is that
Actually,
just like what people come up with from their gut?
Built,
Or
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it's built into the training.
it's built into the training?
Yes.
It would be great to be able to see what those kind of expectations are if you have them.
Well,
and,
I
like what the
sent
non-negotiables are.
a redacted copy of the curriculum because as part of the training, we do take pictures inside the facility. There are pictures of doors. There are pictures of many things that are confidential in that. So I'm willing to share if you guys want to just look at it and not make it public. I'm willing to give you guys the whole curriculum. I did need to ask Mr. Holmes because he's the developer of that and he was fine with it. So we can send you the entire curriculum, the full PowerPoint.
Okay, that would be helpful. And then just, I guess, one last question. It stated that it was inspired, I think, by the Casey family programs. Presumably that allows it, whatever, I think what Casey does allows it to be evidence-based. So when we say inspired and then tweaked, or is it a copy of what the Casey family programs put
No,
out?
this was, I developed the program myself.
Okay.
The Annie Casey
Annie Casey,
Foundation
sorry.
has the, I believe it's called I think you have a copy of it.
The facility assessment.
Yeah, it's the detention facility self-assessment, juvenile detention alternatives initiative. So essentially there's a section in here and it talks about JDAI how-to tools, and it talks about training and supervision of employees. So that lent itself to, hey, because this was developed out of a necessity, out of a need to be able to further identify and train officers on proactive supervision, how to improve their skills. And so this was sort of the inspiration.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. So again, tweaked. Or catered, I guess,
I think,
to your assessment of the needs.
Once you see the program, you can tell me if it's tweaked or not. But it was the bones of it were developed through conversations with other facility managers, staff, supervisors, and the needs were identified, and those needs are addressed in practice supervision.
And I would add to that, Commissioner, when this assessment, when you look at there's a full facility assessment put forward by the Annie Casey Foundation. And anyone can check if my memory serves me correct. This was actually issued by the Annie Casey Foundation in 2006. There's the bones of the whole facility assessment goes through many things. What is the physical plant of your facility? What are you doing with all of the mechanisms in the facility? And then the very specific section that goes through what is staff training, because when Mr. Holmes talked about it, and I love the Annie Casey Foundation for many reasons, but I said, yeah, I'm familiar with that. And he's absolutely correct that it goes through and it says training for staff. What's trained, when you say tweaked, it's not evidence-based because it hasn't been through the rigorous study, longitudinal or otherwise. But what I will say that for us, in our vein, the BSCC is not going to, Standards and Training, STC, is not going to certify a training that does not meet the needs of the department or population at large in probation that needs the training. And we have to develop training that fits the needs of our staff. And what fits the needs of our staff right now are going back, as I've said in this body before and other places publicly, going back to the basics.
Thank you.
And then just last question around outcomes. I guess I see this measuring for outcomes, but I'm not really sure what outcomes are being measured. Is it, is it use of force? Is it call outs? Is it folks are able to run their program? Just curious what the metrics are and how often you'll be actually measuring those metrics.
Right now, there's a form that's part of the proactive training, and you do a checklist. Is the staff able to have presence on the unit? Are they able to vocalize the schedule? Are they able to structure kids? If an incident arises, are you able to proactively observe that, hey, this could be a problem? If I see an argument, the sooner I address it, it doesn't lead to a fight. So those types of things. And unfortunately, we don't have a full research unit, but we can certainly develop different data sets. We are certainly open to anybody that has input to that to help us look at that more broadly besides the staff assessment, what we're getting from the one-on-ones, gauging staff performance in a way, is it okay here on the unit? But for now, we have the very basics that are, part of it to utilize.
And so when use of force incidents occur, for example, in L&M, are the facility staff, directors, superintendents kind of looking at how those use of force incidents play out in conjunction with proactive supervision and whether or not like the steps of proactive supervision played out as anticipated?
They are informally, yes.
Informally.
But there's no, like I said, we don't have a full research unit, but informally, yes. Is it getting better? Are staff responding with using the tools that they're getting? And we can get some type of outcome. Hey, give us a summary of what you're seeing and provide it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't know if there's time, so I'll keep, we can move on.
Commissioner Harris?
Just really quick, I want to just learn a little bit more about the staff who are identified to be trained and if you're finding that they've been good ambassadors for this. And is that your hope? Was that part of the hope in identifying those particular staff to be leaders in this?
Yeah,
Oh, no, I'll give my response because it'll be
So-
different coming
okay.
being.
So, we were first sort of, hey, this is who you're going to work with, and this is who we've identified as being, and they were from the training unit, and these would be good individuals to help implement this program. But what we found were that some of those individuals were not, as they were not as excited about being part of the program. And they were allowed to be let go, go back to your assignment, because what we did not want were people who were forced to be a part of implementing this product supervision. So then it went through another process of identifying and then sort of asking people, hey, look, this is what we're trying to do, trying to accomplish. This is something you'd be interested in. And through that process, there were another group identified. And that's who eventually ended up as part of the team. So yes, all those individuals were glad to be a part of it, were encouraged, and have, from what I've seen, they've been excellent.
So with all transparency on this topic here, we had identified a team of people to participate in training, learning, proactive supervision, long-term plan to have it available in our training unit and on-site, and then eventually added the cohort piece more recently, more recent months. Several people from our training unit said, hey, yes, I'm willing to help. Okay, I will show up. I'm okay with the schedule change. I'll be available weekends, mornings, evenings, whatever schedule you need. I will help train supervisors. I will help train directors and others and do the work that needs to be done, finalizing the PowerPoint presentation for input and those things. And some people outright refused and did whatever they needed to do to be excused from doing it due to an unwillingness to participate. But we selected, as stated, we then began to recruit with supervisors. There were supervisors that had regularly worked in the facility routinely to do overtime, or staff that regularly worked beyond their deployment. Hey, this is what we're trying to do. Would you be interested? We're looking for volunteers. And as many, we have hundreds of people that show up every day on time. They're out there working hard. I know we talk a lot about the negative in a lot of forums, but we have many people that care very much what happens with our youth, that support each other in the facilities and show up and do the work. And among the group of people, many people, some people, not 20 or 30, but a few volunteered, and we moved forward with the team that we developed to implement proactive supervision.
Please.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. So Wendy, do we have any written or live public comments?
I don't believe we had any written public comments on this topic. If we do receive them today, we'll attach them to the agenda. Is there anyone in the room who would like to give public comment on the proactive supervision model? If you're online, you can give public comment on WebEx by using the little raise your hand function or by dialing *3 on your phone. We have 2 public commenters virtually. Nobody in the room? Okay. Sorry, did you send them to me already, Smile? I don't see them. Oh, okay, no problem. What's the first name? DPOSH.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so listening to the rundown on the proactive supervision, I feel like it sounds really promising. A lot of that stuff, though, I think can be kind of maybe like a little bit of a deeper dive on how to implement. You guys said that you started a cohort of staff. I think a cohort of juveniles would be interesting to see. Maybe opening up a unit where a group comes in and then that cohort goes through the implementation process without really knowing what the other juveniles are doing in other units, and do that for a few months and see how that works. And that was it.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Nadine Davila.
I didn't take this. Oops. Okay, so my question is basically what is this proactive supervision doing about personals? Because everything sounds very familiar to us. Those of us that have been doing this for 20 plus years, we've been doing everything. The difference is we were very strict. We have a lot of people that are bringing in personal items through their parents because of court order. All of a sudden, they need special medical dove or caress. And then drugs are coming in that way, even though it's not being published. So I would really strongly suggest that if we start focusing on not allowing personals, the kids can't fight for those things, they can't use them as monetary value. If there is a medical need, we have the nurses that can provide. That's how we did it in the past. So everything that you're talking about is going to be successful because we did everything like that when I was a DSO and a DPO in institutions many moons ago. So it's very promising if we can continue to watch those phones and we monitor the personals that are coming in.
Thank you. I think that's the end of our public comment.
Thank you, Wendy. Commissioners, before we move on, any more questions or comments? Okay, as stated earlier, agenda item 6 about crisis intervention team is tabled until next month. We'll move on to agenda item 7. We will discuss and take action on reports from the Los Angeles County Probation Oversight Commission. Executive Director Wendy Julian will report out the commission, and the commission will be asked to vote on 4 items, all which are attached to the agenda and included in the attached PLC motion. Barry J. Nardov, Secure Youth Track inspection report for the East camps, which are Camp Alphabal, Page, and Rocky, the 2025 PLC meeting calendar, and accept nominations for the position of Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary of the PLC. I will ask you all to move and second to approve the reports. Then we will open discussion on them, take public comment, and then vote on them after the public comment. Wendy, please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Ooh, I'm not sure that one's working. Yeah, okay, I think it is. All right. I'm not going to say much about the Barry J. Nydorf inspection because we had a lovely town hall about it last week, which there is video of on our website. Please watch it. It's great. We also talked about Los Padrinos, but I would actually like to specifically thank Superintendent Raley for attending the town hall. That helps a lot with the way that our reports are going forward when we have probation input into that. And also, I think you will hear him in the comments he made in the town hall thank the staff at Barry J. Nydorf for what is explained in the findings for some pretty significant improvements. And I will say personally, I also had a really great day on the inspection at Barry J. Nydorf interacting with the young people there. They showed me how they're training their dogs in the Pause for Life program. We watched a group of young men taking a college algebra class. There was a lot of interaction, positive interaction, a group of young men and boys at the pool interacting with their staff. It was remarkably different than inspections that I myself have attended and that we've reviewed in the past. There's obviously still room for growth, but lots of positive things to say. We have not yet discussed the East camps. I would like to again extend my thanks to our staff, especially Dr. Sarah Gongora and Jennifer Ochoa Garcia for their work putting together the inspections, the template, and scheduling the inspections, and then in particular to the commissioners who spend hours and hours conducting these inspections and writing their notes and reviews. It's an incredible service to the public and the community to give a perspective. And I will remind you that we were told by the BSCC when we first started the Probation Oversight Commission that our task was to go into these facilities as regular people. And not think about the legal compliance necessarily, but look at the inspections from the perspective really of how would I feel if my child, my niece or nephew, my sister or brother was in this facility. And I think the commissioners have done an extraordinary job of striking that balance. You will see in the East Camps inspections that there are a few really extraordinary things. In fact, one thing that I would say is something about which I am most proud of our accomplishments in the Probation Oversight Commission, which has been supported by the board as a whole, but multiple board offices, which is that we went to Camps Page and Aflerbaugh And also there's positive reports about this in Camp Rocky as well, to see that all staff have Narcan on them. That is a tremendous improvement. It's something that leadership in those East camps have taken seriously. And I really appreciate their following the directives of the board and the recommendations of the POC. Also, just the culture and understanding how staff interact with youth as well as interact with each other, and not just probation staff, but LACO staff and juvenile court health services staff and Department of Mental Health staff, as well as the credible messengers and the community-based organizations. I actually had a conversation with one of the directors at the East camps in which he was describing a credible messenger who's been coming in for years as an integral part of their staff team. That is very positive to hear. There are proactive youth-centered approaches to harm reduction, as well as trauma-informed approaches to policies and practices. It's an interesting opportunity for our commissioners to go into the East camps, because talking to staff about their experiences there, it feels so remarkably different than how it feels to talk to staff, in particular at Los Padrinos, people who are very happy with their jobs. I think I can say that, who are proud of their jobs with probation, and who interact with the young people who are mostly children, but some young adults now, in a way that feels warm. And so I hope you'll read that inspection report and the recommendations and findings, and we will continue to do this next year. So we will be submitting these reports, assuming that you all vote to approve them, to the BSCC by the December 31st deadline. This is the end. They're all complete now. Thank you very much to our team and all of you. So that's the end of my comments about the inspections. Second is the 2025 meeting schedule. These are all attached to the agenda. I want to note that there are 3 meetings on here, February, April, and July, in which we have changed from our regular second Thursday date. We've done that preemptively because the BSCC is meeting on the Thursday of our regular meeting date. And we know that many of you all want to attend the BSCC meetings, and probation may be called to attend some of the BSCC meetings. They will be alternating. Not exactly alternating, but we will have some here and some at Magic Johnson Park. And as always, we'll share that information going forward. They will remain at 9 to 1. So with the exception of those 3, they are all on the second Thursdays. And then finally, I would like to, our officers are allowed to serve 2 years in their terms, and we accept nominations. And then the POC ordinance requires that we vote on officers at every January annual meeting. So today we will accept nominations for the officer positions, which will then be the slate on which we will vote in January. That could always be changed because of the way democracy and the Brown Act works in January, but this way folks have an opportunity to know who's interested in the positions on January. So the officer duties are listed in an attachment to the agenda, and I'd like to ask the commissioners if you have nominations for the leadership roles for 2025.
I'd love to nominate Commissioner Mundo to continue in his position as chair.
Thank you.
I think you have to say whether you accept or not.
I accept. Thank you.
Thank you. And for anyone else or for the other positions, we're just doing this as an open forum.
I'm a little too fresh and new to kind of chime in, if you don't.
I would like to nominate Diane Terry as vice chair. I will contact her to see if she would accept. She preliminary had indicated that she would.
Was it the third position, secretary?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if Commissioner Canales is interested in continuing in that position, but happy to renominate her as well.
Okay. And
I think we can say the same thing,
Yes.
that there has been a preliminary expression of interest to accept that nomination, and Chair Mundo can reach out to Commissioner Canales about that nomination. Any
Okay.
other nominations? Also, we are going to open this up to public comment on all of these issues. And if is public comment about the nominations, you're welcome to do that as well. This is a very open format. Okay.
Now, is that current? Is that the next step?
That's the next step.
Okay, well, let's open it
Okay,
up.
so there is a motion attached to the agenda, which I had in front of me and now I don't, that lists very specifically what the things that will be voted on are. So I think before we go to public comment, if you could entertain if there's a
second.
Oh, it's right here. So the motion states to the attachments for each of the inspection reports and the drafted 2025 calendar are attached to the agenda. So the motion would be to accept the 2024 inspection reports for Barry J. Nydorf Secure Youth Treatment Facility and the East Camps, Atherbaugh, Page, and Rocky, which is in one document, to accept the POC's calendar of regular meetings for 2025, and to accept the 2025 nominations for the positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary, depending on their willingness to accept such nominations. And that would be for Eduardo Mundo, Diane Terry, and Dolores Canales as chair, vice chair, and secretary in that order.
And thank you for the nominations. Before we continue further discussion on this agenda item, I would like to move that we accept the attached motion as presented. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Prater. The floor is now open for further discussion. Do you have any questions, comments about the inspection reports, next year's meeting schedule, or the leadership nominations? Okay, having none, do we have any written or public comment?
I do not remember if we have written public comment on this issue. I believe we do not. If we do, it's attached to the agenda and will be. Anyone in the room would like to make public comment about this?
Okay.
Nope. Anybody online?
All right. So Wendy, with that and with no comments or further questions for commissioners, would you facilitate a vote?
I will. That went so quickly, I wasn't prepared. Thank you. Okay, so we are voting on the motion as presented in the attached document with the addition of the names. Commissioner Harris?
Aye.
Commissioner Kokani?
Aye.
Commissioner Meredith?
Aye.
Commissioner Prater?
Aye.
Chair Mundo?
Aye.
So with Commissioners Canales, Jackson, Shipp, and Terry being absent, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, now we move on to item number 8, matters not posted on the agenda to discuss or place a future meeting agenda for action. Commissioners, do you have any announcements or items you would like placed on a future agenda?
I do.
Commissioner Prater?
I just would love for in this space to understand better the rehabilitation efforts that are happening inside. And I know we talk a lot about use of force, violence, staffing, et cetera. But this is a system that we currently have. And so I'd like to understand what's working, if anything is working, and in what ways, is the department working to ensure rehabilitation as much as they can within their power, right, to do so. And in the ways that we know, right, our ways of knowing, like I saw this last presentation about, the proactive supervision, but scant on details about how it has been evaluated, assessed, et cetera. And I want to understand better, like I know that for programming, they have incredible partners like ARC, Healing Dialogue and Action, et cetera. But how are we assessing, like when youth are coming to programming, is there a pre-assessment? Is there a midpoint assessment, a post-assessment, so that we can know, to what extent rehabilitation is happening inside? And I feel like I'd like more space in this meeting to kind of understand those kind of efforts, right? And then also what's working and what's positive. And I know, like when you made a comment just recently about, the staff who love their job and who are doing it well, and I don't know, enough space isn't created. I know that there's a lot of issues, real issues that we can unpack, but I would love for an opportunity for us to talk about the good, in a dark, kind of crazy system, good as best as we can get it.
We will reach out to you to get a a better idea on how to tailor that for our next meeting and agendize. So expect a call from the leadership team. Commissioner Meredith?
Yeah, I just basically have an announcement. I want to point out that we do have a lot of good staff, and our oversight is not just on the facilities of custody, but also on overall adult and juvenile operations. And I say juvenile when actually many of the people we have in custody are 18 to 25 years old. Also, along those lines, the Reserve Corps is still going through the academy now to be certified as Corps officers. That will be helping out in the near future. And she's not here today, but we have a new PAO, so I'm hoping that she puts out some of our good stories.
Perfect.
Commissioner Meredith, can I put you on the spot and ask you to also give a brief announcement about the Franklin fire?
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, we had the Franklin fire up in the Malibu area, and it started about 10:50 on Monday night. We had staff already on site. They had a evacuation plan already in order. Vans were operational, ready to go. They went to generator power, thanks to Edison cutting out the power at some point, but came back on. But they had the emergency management team up there, and I got briefed throughout the night the status of how it was going, and it was very well run, just as it was at the bridge fire and at Saddle Ridge. So I was happy with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on my behalf, Ishmael, if you can bring up the slides with the DYD dashboard. As you all recall, we had DYD make a presentation last meeting. One of the areas that they did not cover was their dashboard, and I'd like to invite them back to cover this. This is page 2 and 4 of the dashboard data, and it really breaks down the numbers of how many they're served and how many enrolled and how many have completed. On page 2, on the next page, I'm sorry, continue. So on this page, it actually represents that approximately 30% are not enrolling. And I'd like to get a better clarification of that. I also, because I want to see if those are the misdemeanors or those are the felony diverted cases that are not showing up, because that's a huge number of kids not getting services that are placed on diversion. The other thing I'm really curious about is how many of the agencies have really bought into referring and diverting felony cases such as joyriding or the low-level burglaries, the low-level assaults. Some of them are batteries, but in their data it shows that a good percentage of those batteries are actually felony offenses, which is kind of an odd thing to see out there. So I'm hoping that if they come back, they can actually break down the agencies that divert and which agencies are fully engaged in diverting, because it's diverting the felonies that is the most important part of diversion. And it's the part that really reduces the footprint of probation as we go forward with Youth Reimagined. So hopefully, if any of you have any thoughts, if you have a chance to look at their data and work with us in developing an agenda item with questions for DYD. Just by way of background, I've been asking for this for about 2 to 3 years now. And it's critical to us understanding how effective and efficient they are. So with that said, I don't have any other items that I would like to see agendized. Anybody? Okay, so there's no public comment on this item, but there is public comment on the next.
Oh, I have my own microphone. Next is general public comment, in which we invite people to give public comment on any topics that relate to the Probation Oversight Commission or the Probation Department, including items not on the agenda. If you're in the room and want to make public comment, please approach the podium. If you're online, please use the raise your hand function or dial *3. Okay, Ms. Ross, we're going to unmute you. Lupe, can you hear me?
You hear me?
Yes. Yes, you can begin.
Thank you. I want to, first of all, thank the commission. I think you're doing an excellent job. I think you're looking out for the community families and youth. I really appreciate that. And I don't think that any commissioner is being given the kudos that they deserve. I do want to speak on the RFA because the attorney that wrote in the newspaper article, he stated that he wanted 100 youth released that were under his care or his case management. However, if that is true, then what are we going to do? I asked the commission to get involved in identifying those youth and working with that attorney because he said they were misdemeanor violations, not truancy, minor things, and we can get them out of los padrinos. But the RFA process has to be looked at seriously because I'm very familiar with it. I've been dealing with RFA since February of this year. Now, I know there was only one person working those cases that also works cases for out of state, for foster care, for adoptions. And they only had one person doing this. And then that person was taken off and redeployed. So then we had nobody in the RFA to do the background checks so that we could get those kids out of there. I know this for a fact because I went through it. Okay. The other thing too is this proactive. I liked it. I really was so excited here just to hear positive stuff that's going on. This is, to me, this is going to be a great program. But I am interested in finding out, and if the commission could help. The staff that didn't want to participate and
That's your time, Ms. Ross. Thank you. I will share for the other members of the public that, like what Commissioner Meredith said, the RFA process is part of a different division within the probation department that hasn't been something that the commission has looked into over our past years. So I appreciate the regular reminders that there are other parts of the probation department that need and merit oversight. So I thank you. That's the placement division, I believe is what it's called. Is that, am I saying that correctly? Within probation is where RFA
Yes.
lands. Yes. Okay, we have a commenter in person. Please proceed.
So I know that there's tons of issues within the juvenile detention centers. I worked at LP, I worked at Central, I went to Silmar, and I've seen a lot. But I'm at the camps now, and it's a different culture, like you were saying. When Ms. Kikani came, we were doing an awards assembly for the boys. We do honor roll, we do principal's honor roll, and these are things that we couldn't do without probation's help. So we do get along. And I'm here today actually to pick up teddy bears from these lovely ladies because Hang Out and Do Good is donating little teddy bears because I have a lot of boys who are parenting. So the public defenders are donating Christmas books that they'll get to be able to send home to their kids. We've got the little teddy bears donated. So yes, I know there's issues. I've been at all the halls, but there is good. There really is. There's people that care. You know, we have our wellness center, Ms. Kikani saw, and we're working together, and it is hard getting kids from the halls. I have to tell them, you're not at LP anymore. We reward you for being good. And we do. And that's how we do it with BMP. I mean, right, Mr. Bell? So I just wanted to highlight that too, that there is good stuff. There is a lot of us who care. You know, it's not what it appears a lot of times. I want to be able to recognize the people who are working together, doing good. And for me, seeing my boys that I had in the halls and their growth at the camp, because some of these boys I've had since they were 15 years old. I see them at 17 and 18 and seeing their progress and their maturity. And it's awesome. I'm done.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments, and I hope you'll read the inspections report. I think you will see some things in there, including we generally don't name probation staff in our inspections report, but there is a probation staff member named in one of those reports that I think you all might find
I
interesting.
also want to say thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
do we have anybody else online? Crystal Jones, thank you.
Commissioners, again, I just want to say thank you so much for the updates and the reports. And I really enjoyed hearing the feedback of the intentional strategy for that proactive supervision tool. I wanted to uplift that. And I love the fact that it was customized for our own county and youth needs. So kudos to Chief and Chief Holmes, Dr. Holmes for that. I wanted to agree to ask, like Mr. Mondo said, is there a way we can ask specific questions just to find out if the enrollment in classes that are offered is effective in actually meeting our youth needs? I think that's very important when we're trying to be intentional to build rehabilitation for our youth. And I would like to ask, is there any way we can have a proactive rehabilitation cohort for our youth created and developed? Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. I think that's it. Yes, okay.
Okay, great. So before we adjourn, I want to thank everybody that participates in our meetings, all the families, all the people that are working in the space, all the probation officers and staff that come and make comments, all of the ones that call me or write emails to us. Like to really, really thank and give a big shout out to the staff that make these meetings possible. Wendy staff, the commissioners who take my calls at all hours of the day and whose kids I'm starting to know and they know my voice now. I'd like to thank the new commissioners for taking on this monumentous task midway. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. I'd like to thank my friends at Hodge who trek down to the courthouses with me and who sometimes I leave behind in the courtroom, not realizing, wondering where they went. And all the public defenders, district attorneys, judges who have tolerated my presence. I'd like to apologize to the clerk's office for being so demanding about the 676 case. And I'd like to wish everybody just a happy, safe, and warm holiday. And hopefully we can come back next year and see a lot of improvement. With that, the last thing I'd like to ask is that we are having a town hall on Tuesday, the 17th at 5:30. It's to inform the public and all those involved about the motion for transfer process. That is the process that takes a juvenile, assesses them, and if they find that they're not amenable to juvenile, sends them to the adult court. It's a very critical process. It's probably the most important process that the probation department is involved with. And so we're going to just do a factual informative session with an expert that will discuss and describe the law itself, the changes and the implementation of it. So please,
It's
check us.
virtual.
It's virtual. Yes. So with that, thank you all for joining us and sharing your comments. As a quick reminder, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel at LA County PLC to receive reminders about our upcoming meetings. Visit our website at plclacounty.gov to subscribe to our email listing. Can I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Kakani, and a second?
Second.
Oh, Prater, he beat you, Ms. Harris. So with that, do we need a vote? A voice vote?
Aye.
We are adjourned.